Hello. Okay, hello and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio with a full packed house today. You can tell because I did not even bother to organize. Well, in part because I didn't know who was coming necessarily till a few hours beforehand, so I don't have a nice little overlay for the rare instances of live in-person viewing of the show currently where you're looking at it. But we've got a full packed show of folks from Game Poems. But hey, who am I, the person talking to you? This is, of course, Indiepocalypse Radio, the radio companion piece to Indiepocalypse, the long-running, overly long-running, very increasingly long-running monthly anthology of independent video games. I'm Andrew, the organizer, and all the other things, etc. of that aforementioned thing. And we are here with a stat cast anywhere between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, anywhere between 7 and 9 contributors and organizers from the newly minted anthology Game Poems. Starting here is everyone's saying hello to each other in the chat, and I'm going to introduce one of them right now. The organizer. What's the official title? Let me look at official titles here. It's in there somewhere, I'm sure. But I can't. I don't know.
Yeah,
ask him his official. We'll ask him his official. Oh, founding editor and publisher. There it is.
Organizer.
I went to credits, and then I was like, "It's not on the credits because you were on the about." Jordan Magnuson's here. Hello.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks very much for having me, and this great group of people here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice to see also I'll say also a very new group of people. I get very excited when I see not the same old crew, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting, and I mean, we were just kind of chatting a little bit before the show, but I was super excited when you were like, oh yeah, let's try to get all the contributors on and everything, because I haven't chatted with most of these people sort of live or gotten to hear most of their voices, so it's really fun to be able to sort of all get in the same room, as it were, or audio space.
Yes, because I think very rarely, it's the thing with games, is very rarely do we find ourselves in the same spaces. There's very few I feel like shared spaces in games for independent developers. There's, I guess there's a maze if you can get out to it, and then there's I don't know, I just shrug my shoulders. There's not really anything else. Indiecade maybe. Kind of.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I think, for sort of, especially more, kind of experimental work and short form games and things like that. It's I think there's definitely not a huge number of spaces necessarily focused on that kind of stuff. So I think of a maze definitely, and Indiecade kind of to an extent. But
But that's the trickiness is that if you compare it to, I think a lot about other similar small scale events, yes, someone's in the chat is yes, we're talking. If you can't hear us, I don't know what to do. You can't hear us. But that is where I think, for instance, digital spaces come into place. And Jordan, if people are unfamiliar, I've said this word Game Poems a few times. You can theoretically be a founding editor and publisher of Game Poems. But what is Game Poems, if people are unfamiliar?
No, what is Game Poems? I think a great question. It's I think sometimes when I say Game Poems or video game poems or something like that, right? Yeah. People definitely do a double take, and that it's not always the two things that you think of being mashed together in the same sentence, or maybe even on the same page, let alone kind of the same terms. It's kind of this. The idea, in a way, it's very much kind of an exploratory and playful, provocation. Really, is how I think about it in a lot of ways. but I don't have like a hard and fast, set determined kind of like, this is what game poems is, and this is what it's not, and that sort of thing. You know, I'm not super into kind of like, you know, kind of monolithic, like, you know, kind of frameworks like that. But it's a kind of a playful idea, right? Of this idea of like, can video games be a medium for poetic expression, right? Can we make games kind of like we write poems or something like that? What would that even mean? How does that work? You know, kind of starting out sort of, I guess, with just kind of an interest in maybe super short form games, kind of as a starting place, right? Games that might take 5 or 10 minutes to play through, something like that. And then, yeah, kind of an interest in this connection to poetry that's kind of come out for me kind of over many years, kind of as with my own creative practice, I've kind of tried to find language to talk about the weird sorts of games that I make, and eventually kind of like led me down the poetry road and this idea of like games as poems.
So, and I guess in the more higher, not higher level, the inverse of higher level, to drill down to the more specific, what is game? How would you describe Game Poems, the publication?
Okay, yeah. So right. So this is, I was talking about kind of the general idea.
Yes.
And then we've got this kind of like, this new, kind of, hot off the press publication of this idea of this magazine, kind of a playable magazine, right, is the idea. So very much, again, kind of going again, kind of pushing into, again, this kind of playful provocation of video games as poems, video games as a mode of poetic expression. What does that mean? What might it mean? What could it mean? And thinking, hey, there's not a lot of, we were just talking about, right, like there's not a whole lot of, sort of spaces, either physical kind of or digital, really, in a lot of ways, you know, kind of spaces that particularly focused on super. I think maybe your audio is working now.
Yes,
Ash, at least the microphone is coming in.
Yes, as someone who's testing, their audio is working.
Yeah. Hopefully the you can hear as well at this point. But you know, thinking like there's not a huge number of spaces, either physical or digital, really, particularly for just kind of super like like short form games, really short form games,
right.
Really experimental work. Of course, I think of Indiepocalypse as a prime example of some, you know, kind of a cool platforming of that sort of work, right?
That is what,
there
6 years old at this point. Like it's
yeah. And so it was kind of, so the publication was just kind of this idea of like, you know, again, kind of this interest I had gleaned over years of this intersection of games and poetry, and then kind of a community that was kind of building up around that, largely, you know, kind of focused on a Discord server we got going. And then and this idea of like, it would be cool, you know, what about kind of something that would be kind of like a magazine, right, for publishing kind of short form games, kind of a little, you know, kind of a little bit like a literary magazine or something, but playable, right? And maybe also kind of with taking inspiration very much from things like Indiepocalypse and kind of the zine communities, right? Also in that indie, I mean, my background is very much in the indie games community, right? So I'm very much
deep
want to
in
kind
there.
of try to bridge. Yeah,
we were. I had on last week's show, Spencer Hayes and I, we were talking about elder statesmen of people, quote unquote, in their 30s, which equates to like elder statesmen in games, you know. And we're talking about not the erosion of these spaces, but like I feel like the internet has, or more like social media in the you know the devolution to the quote unquote 3 website, so to speak. Has kind of robbed more specialized spaces that existed. You know, like an independent game source type of thing. Because it's like because it's weird because a lot of these things always were like, you know, these are games like the artist type of games for the most part. But those sometimes have harder times to connect when you are just like have to spout them out to everybody, you know. rather than like a dedicated forum or some other dedicated online space. So having another specific one like a game poems, gives people like, okay, here's like another place to find like, exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's yeah, no, I think that's true. It's like it is an interesting. It has been interesting, right? As like, yeah, if like for anyone who is kind of around and connected to, say the kind of indie gaming spaces or whatnot, going back into, I guess for me it was going back kind of into the '90s,
Right.
sort of and just kind of seeing like the ebbs and flows of like, yeah, how do people connect around these kinds of different ideas, and whether it's like, yeah, indie games, which of course indie games themselves, yeah, didn't really sort of exist very much at a certain point, and then kind of people coming together around that idea,
Right.
and kind of this, yeah, art house games and
Right.
games as art, and just kind of like garage band games, all these kinds of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or they didn't exist in like a cohesive kind of like way that we understand, because or like people make home brewing floppy games, predates I feel like the language concept of the indie game,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
your various like Apple homebrews that existed, but sometimes people also don't think of like right, bedroom coders and people often you don't think about like Newgrounds and web games as like indie games, like because I think that like there's a very modern interpretation of the word indie game, kind of arguably born from indie game the movie and the ensuing like commercialization of the idea of indie.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, because now, right, it's like, I mean, even, yeah, indie is almost kind of like, right. I mean, there's a way in which there's a whole kind of industry in a way now, right?
Right.
Kind of around indie games. It's big enough that it is kind of its own industry, and yeah, right. These navigations and negotiations of, yeah, what indie means
Right.
in all of this, but
Just,
as you said, and as Roman's pointing out in the chat, it's like, yeah, this bedroom coders, back into the '70s and '80s, and it's like Sid Meier going around with his first copy of Civilization on a floppy disk, right?
yeah.
Like when in a Ziploc bag and whatnot, so right, it's like obviously there's this interesting, these interesting kind of like threads, and different kinds of waves, I guess, of things happening at different points, and
Right.
and then, yeah, people connecting around different ideas, and yeah, it's
The
interesting.
and the thing you lose, or the thing that feels like almost like weirdly like behind the time, almost so to speak. Like there is like the coalescing of like an independent space, like a identifiable indie space. I feel is something that is like it feels like it's only just sort of emerging more and more. I think like as I think when I think about these sort of things, I think about them as the view of someone who is like you imagine a random person right now. They're starting to make games. They want to get into the indies. They want to find other people. They want to get into like independent game spaces. And I think about, oh well, where do you go if you don't know anyone?
Hmm.
And I think the answers for that kind of person is like now just starting to crop up more and more of like, oh, you can go here or there, or in theory, like oh, you can check out game poems. You can check out Thinky Games. You can these little
Hmm.
pockets of places to check out. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems like, yeah. I guess one of the things, yeah, is just kind of like, yeah, right, like how people find each other, and the platforms, and the communities, and how that works, right? Because it's like, because like back in the yeah, it's like back in the TIG source days, it was all kind of like, yeah, these like independent hosted forums, on the
yeah,
internet, and that kind of was a other thing, right? And kind of independent websites, and then it seems like, as you said, right, with the kind of like the narrowing of the internet that's happened, right, and then it's like now it seems like it's around again, sort of like these people finding ways to connect on these sort of dominant platforms, whether there be, I mean, things like Discord, I think, seems to be a very common one these days,
right?
And other means of like,
for all the problems that entails of it not being like an archival internet space,
Yeah, I do think about that.
But it is, there's because a lot of, it's a challenge that I've run into for years of. There are plenty of games, very good, well-made games that just do not work on social media. The eternal like, how do you cut a 5-second clip in a trailer for a Twine game?
Yeah.
How do you?
Yeah.
And that's sort of like where, social media immediately like shows its weakness of it's good for only like a very narrow field of art, that it's like flashy and immediately recognizable. So you need spaces to like find a place that, that's where like, something like, game poems can benefit of being like, oh, here's a larger, like it feels something that feels larger, more institutional, more like a, I don't know. I hesitate product, because product is such a bad way to think about it. But like I feel like much.
Well, just like a point of, I think just like kind of a point of connection, right?
Yeah.
Like something to, again, just a, because it's like one of the things it's like the last couple of years I've sort of I've been quite nomadic. Well, I guess I've been quite nomadic in most of my life, but
right.
but I've been kind of like wandering around a lot, speaking, touching base and connecting with people, lots of different groups of people in different places connected to, whether it's academia, indie games, other things, and it's just like, I think again, it's nice to, I mean, kind of the thing that actually got me started, that eventually kind of led me to start the Discord server, and then out of that kind of the magazine, right? But was just that realization again of like, of connecting with people, and there being these points of common interest on some of these things, right? But as you say, like not necessarily having people not necessarily feeling like they had a gathering point,
right.
or a focal point for connecting, right? So it's like, so I think that's where it's nice to try to create points of, and again, that's like, I think like there's so many great zine projects out there that are doing things. I think Indiepocalypse again is an amazing example of that. But just kind of, sort of putting, I don't know if you want, if putting like a flag in the sand or something is a good, I don't know if that, I don't particularly like that metaphor.
Right, yes.
But the idea kind of just like, but having somewhere where people can kind of gather, to.
Yeah,
and,
right. Like
kind of,
having a point, because if like you see the largest things, you like, if you are making like a sort of small scale 5-minute game that you find in like a game poems, you can you submit to Amaze, and I guess submit to the IGF Nuovo maybe, and then like hope you get into one of those, and then hope also you can afford to go to either of those. And then if not, you just like sit and wait for another year and try again.
Yeah, and I think particularly for like, right, for if you're talking about 5-minute experiences, right, even that, it's like, it's a little bit of a stretch, right?
Yes.
And that's where it's like part of my particular interest again with the game poem framing is again this sort of like, kind of hyper short form game making, because even it's like, I do think you have things like, I think there's been a good push in the indie community over the last years, and among game players, that people are very interested in, are much more interested in experimental work, I think, than was the case in the past, right? I think there are people who have who are out there trying to platform that work and highlight it. I think it, like Indicate does a great job of that. I think the IGF has tried to do that as well, and certainly places like Amaze. And Amaze would be the closest for sure. But I still think there's still a struggle, right? Like if you make something that literally takes 3 minutes to play or something, right? That there's a struggle, I think, still where that's often, the question of sort of the validity of it, or whether it can be recognized as something, quote, that small or so small or whatever, right? I think is always kind of there. For work that is that short form, and that again is like where, to me the poetry connection is quite interesting, right? Because it's like, well, we have this established tradition within poetry, going back forever of super super short form work that is valued, not by everybody, right? Obviously,
yes, no, poetry
right?
is not,
but that it's still but that there's still and so I think that's what, to me, it's that usefulness of kind of that bridging is useful, right, for video games, because suddenly it's like, oh, it's like one of the things I'm teaching game design as well right now, like in an art school here, and like also talking about some of the same stuff, and it's like giving permission to people to make a 5-minute game, right? It has been hard historically, right? But I think, again, it's like that poetry bridge is quite helpful in saying, hey, look, there's a tradition here, right?
Yes, right.
There's a tradition. Like, it's not like, oh, if you make something that's 5 minutes, that takes 5 minutes to interact with, that doesn't have value, right? We know that it has value. Actually, we just haven't talked about it in the context of video games,
right?
Before very much.
Video games have this anchor of like length tied to them more than any other medium, that I think it'll like shed with time. But it does feel like very much like a time thing. And like something I've been thinking about more is with relation to like how people view older games. Like so often you'll see people like, oh, I love playing an older game, like so nostalgic. But the passage of time increasingly makes it so fewer games that are older people were ever alive when the games came out. So they're kind of like it sort of like begins to break down that notion of like, because there's all these little barriers built up around the definition of games, and how we view games like holistically as an art form. I think no one thinks of like whatever Citizen Kane as a retro movie. I mean, older, sure, but like this idea of retro doesn't exist is strongly in other mediums in that same way. And I feel like all these ideas are kind of like swirling together in terms of like people have a hard time recognizing games as an art form. They're all kind of part of that same slurry.
No, absolutely. And I also just want to point out Geoffrey's mentioning in the chat about epic poetry, of course, and longer poetry, which actually has a longer history even than shorter lyric poetry, which I think is a fantastic point. And I think that's absolutely true within poetry. It's not just a short form art form at all. But again, I think it's like, but you do have that short form within it, right? That short form kind of tradition within it, which I think is really interesting. Again, because you just don't have. That's where it's like you don't have a lot of other examples of that kind of super short form. But also, I think the epic poetry and those connections there are also really fascinating to think about for games. A little bit of a different.
And I think sometimes like the shorthand of poems helps you like just get, because I've come across this problem of too art for the game crowd, too game for the art crowd, so to speak. Where it's like, oh, you have to people. So it's like helps you bridge that gap in sort of like I remember explaining to someone at a market someone who had worked at was working at like a local art house theater, and we were at like a flea market, and they were like, "Oh," I was trying to describe what we were doing. I'm like, "Oh, it's just like art house movies, but video games," you know. And they're like, "Oh, right." Like sometimes you just need that framing, you know.
Y- Yeah, no, I think that interesting, like the two game for the art group and two art for the game, is definitely an interesting one, right? Because that's something that I like. It's still quite interesting to me, right? Like who you can talk to about
Right.
video games being uh, an art form or artistic really relevant or anything like that, right? Literary or anything else, right? It's like there's still definitely a lot of people where it's like that's just a completely a completely foreign concept, right, or foreign idea, something that's not. There's still places where it's like I have to frame what I'm doing as interactive art,
Yes.
actually, and not games, right?
Right.
Otherwise, it's like I can't put it in this space
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if it was a game or if it was connected to video games, right, it somehow wouldn't, it wouldn't be the right thing or it wouldn't be relevant or whatever else,
Right.
which is
Right.
interesting to me, right, and especially because I think of my medium very specifically as video games most of
Yes.
the time, right? So it is interesting to me, right, where it's like sometimes that kind of like need
Yeah.
to bend over backwards and say,
I
oh yes, it has nothing to do with video games.
Yes, I'm likewise like not interested in sort of losing the term, like inventing a new term because it feels exhausting and it would take forever for it to catch on. Um, to be like, oh yeah, no, interactive art, but at the same time, it's like just find the like stick with the term and just broaden what the term means. Um,
Hmm.
in the same way that music no longer just means like music can mean everything from like a large 100-person orchestra to like one person with like doing field recordings, you know. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, to me, that's where it's like like video games as a medium are so interesting, partly because of the just the breadth and the reach, and right. It's like I mean, they are such a mass media, they are such a popular medium, right? That to me is very much part of what makes them interesting, right? And that
yeah,
sense of like expanding that space out, right? Where it's like if we expand video games, what video games can mean, what video games can do, what video games can be. And I think, right, this is something that you very clearly see happening in the last, 10, 15, 20 years very strongly, obviously really going all the way back to the beginning, as long as we've been making video games, right? But the expansion, it's like the first games, of course, it was like, oh, these are some new sort of toy, right? Some sort of new sort of game, right? It
yeah,
wasn't, you wouldn't tell a story with these things, right? It was like,
right,
this wasn't a narrative form, right? And then it was like, oh, maybe video games could tell stories, right?
yeah.
LOL.
G-
But
g-
um, but
g-
but but with any of these things, right? It's like pushing that out. It's like when it is such a significant medium that so many people are interacting with, right? The more that gets pushed out in terms of people's willingness to have a wide variety of experiences, right? I think that's just like very exciting because partly of that expansiveness, right, and that reach, and the fact that it is a cultural, it's a culturally significant medium in a popular sense,
yes,
which I think is cool, right? So yeah, just agreeing with your point about like, yeah, like let's just push this, let's just push this medium out, right, all the way,
right.
as far as we can.
Because games as I think about the idea of games as a medium have a foot in like hobby more than any other medium does. Like a lot of some like if you imagine an overly simplified scale of hobby to art, um, a lot of the games like fall more like I think about games that I've otherwise enjoyed, fully, but feel more like, oh, this was more like a hobby than a piece of art that I engage with, which is kind of like an interesting thing that like necessarily like a book can't do necessarily in the same way, where it's like this is more akin to model making than it is to art. Whatever art broad definition of art is, this ill-definable word. Uh,
Yeah, no, I think there's obviously, right. It's like we've obviously had all these, there have been these contestations throughout history of what art is, and especially this, tensions around art and craft and art and hobbies and all these different things. But I think, partly, it's like whatever language people are using or not using, I think just seeing the breadth of what people are doing and how they're using it and what they're doing with it, right, is just like really interesting.
Yes, so I think I am, for the sake of not throwing people into the woods immediately, I think I am going to put a break between each guest. I'm gonna find a quick thing that I can very quickly slam breaks using it's not long breaks, but breaks between each guest. I said, Joan, I have a couple of questions for you. These are standard questions that come up with on this show. And I tend to ask of every guest. So first up, hey, what's your favorite type of rock?
What's my favorite type of rock?
Yes. Open to interpretation, however you choose to interpret it.
Probably. Oh yeah, well, open to interpretation, right? So there's various ways that question could be taken. Do you should I clarify regarding, are we talking geology or music here?
Up to interpretation.
Well, so the first thing, I mean, I guess I'll just say, I guess going on the music front, I would just say kind of I like I guess you might say I'm not someone who's really well versed in music, but I'd say things kind of in the post-rock, somewhere in the post-rock domain. I like Sigur Rós a lot, in terms of if we're talking music. If we're talking geology, I'd say a rock you can climb would be my favorite type.
Perfect. Our intro for this very show was a singular track from Godspeed You, Black Emperor. Pivotal. Not pivotal is not the right word, but foundational. Not foundational. What's the word? Cool post-rock band.
Yeah. No, very nice.
But second question, and this question doesn't require an answer. This is a do, of course, instead of a what. Hey, do you have a favorite Toho character?
Do I have a favorite Toho character?
Yes.
No, I'm going to say no.
Perfect. Jordan, that's a perfectly acceptable answer to that question, and people often get hung up on it. Well, that's it. Thank you for joining me. We're going to very quickly try to organize getting everyone in this call and figure it all out.
Yeah. No, awesome. Yeah. No, thanks so much again, Andrew, both for having me and for sort of agreeing to host such a collection of us today.
No, it'll
be really fun, but obviously a slight logistical challenge.
Barely any. I organize two anthologies every single month, in addition to.
That's right. Oh, crazy, amazing.
Too much other nonsense. I love organizational challenges. Keeps me going. But also, I get very excited whenever other people step into this like indie small press space. When I want to be like, hey, everyone, check this out.
Yeah, no, really appreciate it.
Wait a minute. Now I'm thinking for myself, like, how much do I want to edit out 9 clips of this show? And the answer is I don't think I want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm instead going to tell them in the chat that they're up next and let them mentally prepare for it. And telling them to jump in whenever you're ready. And then I will... I've seen it. Hello?
Can Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Amazing.
Excellent. I think we got 3 of us here. So.
Yes. Oh, like 3 of you in the room that you're in?
Yes, correct. There's 3 of us. Yeah.
Okay.
All around.
So am I correct in assuming then this is the team behind Asunder?
Yes.
Would you introduce yourselves? Hello.
Hello. I'm Ash. I was responsible for the programming and design on Asunder.
I'm Brittany, and I was responsible for art.
My name is Kate, and I am all things sound.
Perfect. And that is the entire. I mean, that's the things that make a video game. If you drill them down to their core components.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on. This is such a blast.
No, I'm glad to have. This is a trick for me to also. How do I meet 9 other people? So Asunder featured in Game Poems #1. I'll put a thick #1 on there in hopes that there increasingly are additional numbers to it. But if people haven't checked it out yet, and I'll say it once now for the show instead of every single time for the show. Hey folks, it takes like an hour. If you haven't checked it out yet, hey, check it out. If you are, listening to this after the fact, pause this now, boot up gamepoems.com and just work through all the entries. But if people are stubborn and they refuse to do that, how would you describe Asunder?
I think that it was such a perfect collaboration between all 3 of us. And we are deeply interested in indie games and also experimental games and really evoking a whole emotional palette in players. I think that there's so many different kinds of feelings that games as an interactive medium can instill in players. Like, I don't think you can feel like a sense of guilt or pride or anything like that to the extent that you do in games when you watch a movie or read a book or things like that. And so our process was that we're very collaborative. I mean, everyone, I think, had pretty equal input. But we got together, we ideated based on the theme of first moves, and we actually wrote a poem together. So we figured out what kind of like feelings we wanted to express. All 3 of us struggle with this balance between chaos and harmony. And so we created this list of verbs of like feelings or emotions that we wanted players to potentially feel with whatever our poem ended up being. And then we took that same set of words and all 3 of us wrote like an actual traditional poem. And that became kind of the template for what eventually became Asunder. I don't know, Brittany or Kate, if you have anything to add on that.
One of the fun things was that we were trying to figure out how to implement the player character because we really wanted to have that embodied experience rather than just not having a player character at all. But we were up against our deadline. So what we ended up doing, since we didn't have time to do movement or anything like that, we just made the mouse into the character. And then as it picks up items, it turns around. So it almost feels like you're picking it up, like the player themselves. And then after a 1 second idle, the mouse disappears and then the character comes up and appears on the couch and she's kind of resting. So rest is a huge part of it as well.
And then sound-wise, as a musician, as a sound artist, I am constantly striving to create safe places, spaces for people to talk about hard subjects or emotions or things like that. And I'm new to the gaming world, and when I discovered Game Poems, this kind of opened up huge doors for me as a creator and how to reach a large amount of people of like, hey, me too, I also go through these things and you're not alone, and have this experience with me versus, hey, you're winning or losing.
Right.
That's what I love about Game Poems, is this idea of you can have this experience without coming out a winner or a loser. You're just in it.
Yes. No, I've been thinking more about, and I keep saying it, so eventually maybe it'll stick in people's brains, about this idea of like obstacle-oriented game design, and how that's just like it's treated as the way to design games, but it's really just like a single way to design games.
Totally.
And that and same with like talking about like the player character as a cursor. I think games poetry it ties in beautifully with game poems, because poems are like the average individual understands that poems are abstract, but I feel like games are, if you imagine again a simplified scale of abstractness to literalism, games feel the closest to this literalism scale, where people are like, oh, I'm this person, so this person has to literally do things, but you can understand that you are not literally flying around a room, collecting objects. Like,
yeah,
we.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying we have this with all art, we have this assumption of like, no, this isn't literally happening,
Yeah.
And I think people just need to like train that language in games more, because so much of them, you're controlling a player character who's navigating it like a very, for lack of, even whether it's high fidelity graphics or small pixels, they're still like, traversing a real quote unquote space, by the rules of that space that we understand.
Yes, definitely. That was a thought that we encountered a lot, was like, how much agency do we give the player, and how much do we restrict them to particular ways of being in the space that we were creating in the poem, because we definitely wanted the player to still feel a sense of ownership and belonging in that space, while at the same time having a pretty clear creative vision shared between the three of us in terms of like what we wanted them to experience. And we actually struggled quite a bit with the ending and iterating on that multiple times. I think that I was falling back on my very traditional game design education and background, and I'm like a professor of game design now, and so I was kind of like, oh, it should just keep going forever and ever and ever. But I think that that's actually maybe antithetical to what a game poem is about as a short form experience. Clear ending, and the player is an agent and in that experience and can decide when they want to leave it.
The it's over when section of the game poems collected piece is I think it's a very smart like way to like get people to engage with this sort of thing, because it was to get a small peek behind the curtain and read your chat. It was you who had mentioned the idea of like loops in games, like what is, you hear a lot talk online of like what's the gameplay, and in like probably academic spaces and other game design spaces, like what's your gameplay loop,
Right. Yes.
What
is often a regulation.
What are your verbs?
And I think that working on the game poem was such a nice departure from that, where instead of asking verbs, it was, what are the emotions?
Right.
What are the sort of thought processes that we're hoping the player moves through? Or what kinds of things can maybe they untangle within themselves through engaging with this work? Which is a great space to be in with games as an interactive form that I think is unfortunately not embraced as much as it could be in other areas and spheres within the games community, including both the industry and hobbyists, of course.
Right. Because, if you think of the very traditional way of describing games, like you would describe like what you do in Asunder, and it's like to describe what you do in it encapsulates a very small like part of what the game is.
Yes. Yeah, and everyone plays it differently too.
Right.
So, which is actually a great thing, right? So everyone goes in, and much like everyone would leave reading traditional poetry or literary work with their own interpretation, I feel like there's more room for interpretation with a lot of the game poems I've played
Right.
than the other sort of longer form video games that I've played. And it was also quite a relief to not have to worry too much about marketability or in that context of knowing that we were not making a game to sell, but
Yes.
to facilitate a journey in the player.
Yes, I will say, as someone who smuggles art games into the public consciousness through the guise of a product, I haven't figured it out yet either. How to sell art to people.
Yeah.
Especially, I should say in games, especially, I feel like it's a difficult challenge, because people know what poems are, even if people don't like poems. If
This actually. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go. If I'm ever talking, just this is a rule for everyone going forward. If I'm ever talking, just talk through me.
Okay.
I'll just quiet down.
Yeah, I mean, this conversation sort of came up in the Game Poems Discord recently in terms of like, how do I reach an audience that wants to read my poems?
Right.
And I'm a musician and I do these little recordings and I'm like sharing it on my Instagram and I get 2 likes and I'm like, what's the deal?
Right.
And I think I was recently watching this video about the importance of creating a game reel when looking for jobs and things, and it was brought to my attention that the most important thing when selling any sort of art is really the only people who are going to watch it, listen to it, look at it, know you.
Yes.
Are your friends, right? And so that really got me like, oh man, because I'm so bad at I try to stay away from social media for other reasons, but then like looking at things like Discord, like I really need to start trying to get more connected with people, not only for feedback, but that's how people are gonna know my art and see my art, no matter what form it is, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's where, like, to bring it back to the first part, in-person spaces would come into play most of the time. You would, like, if you're an artist working, like a more traditional artist working a bunch of cons, you just keep meeting people at cons,
Yeah.
And games have fewer of those, and even fewer where and very few, if any, where like the main thrust of the con is that they are a market, Like, I've never gone to, like, an indie comic show or a zine fest where it's just a bunch of people showing off their art and nobody's actually selling anything.
Yeah. I do think that there is absolutely I don't want to say market. There's an audience for people who want to engage with game poems. And I think that this is why the magazine is so important, is because it's become a community, a space where people can engage with this work beyond just their immediate communities too. And I am so excited about that, because the other thing that I love about game poems as a concept is that they're much more accessible, I think, than to an average person or a hobbyist or a student or someone who's just picking it up. It's a lot more achievable to make something short form that can still be quite powerful and impactful without needing all of the technical skills, the sustained motivation, just the grit, really, to make a longer form video game. And it's also wonderful too that it's achievable to make a game poem as a single person. You're not necessarily reliant on others. And of course, I had 2 fantastic individuals to collaborate with on Asunder. So there's that. But of course, you could make a game poem by yourself. And I think that that's why having a community space around game poems is so important, because you could just run away and do it as an individual, but knowing that there's other people who are like-minded, who are interested in the same things, who are doing the same things as you, is going to be so critically important for this part of the games industry or game development. I don't like using the word industry. I guess the
Right.
games world.
Right. Well, it's the tricky thing because I feel like in games more than any medium, industry is so dominant. You know, I think it can feel inescapable. Like what is a we mentioned events to go to as an indie, and then IGF, for instance, is also tethered to GDC. It's like
Right.
barely an independent space, like not one you would think of in terms of like independent art spaces.
And GDC is so prohibitively expensive.
Yes, right.
I've only gone there once, and it's because I was speaking there, and
Right.
we get a free ticket, right? But otherwise, I could not afford to go.
I thought about it, like, I'm like, I could probably get like there's like 10,000 speaking spots. I could probably get a speaking spot, but then I was like, oh wait, I have to take a full week of PTO on this because it's during the week. And you realize, oh no, it is like extremely an industry space, So that's like you run into those sorts of difficulties and like they're pretty, and obviously there's no way to like make back your expenses there, if you do go there. It's not like you get a table and you sell stuff.
Right.
Like that, like I'm able to travel, like I'm able to travel around the world solely because I do that, where I find that I'm able to go to like PAX and Amaze and the other PAX and all these other spaces and I can like sell a bunch of stuff, and I wonder like, oh, if that was more common for developers, if people expected to go to maybe not something huge as PAX, but like a smaller independent game show, and like, oh, all these developers are going to be selling their games here. I'm going to buy their short little games.
Right.
Like,
that would be amazing.
Right. I think you start to see like you start to see the demographics of people making games. Like you see games culturally changed with that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a long process.
Yes.
But speaking of these long processes, I've got a couple of questions for you. The long process of the show, so the show doesn't go on forever. I've got a couple of questions for you, or for all of you. Now you've had time to prepare. What's your favorite type of rock?
I like volcanic rock because I feel like it's hiding mysteries in all the holes. So yeah, I like volcanic rock. That's definitely my favorite rock.
Perfect.
I'm gonna go with a stone, and I'm gonna go with morganite, which is kind of like a light pinkish gemstone.
Ooh.
This question is incredibly hard for me as a addicted rock hounder.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to say hematite and meteorite are two of my favorite.
Now I've got a new rock to have to look up.
Yeah.
As I slowly learn about rocks. Okay, I'm familiar with. Okay, I think I've seen hematite, but I didn't have a word for it.
I don't even know what hematite is. I gotta look this up too.
Well,
It's like
it
super
grows.
Yeah.
It's made. I lived in Moab, Utah for a long time,
Oh, wow.
in southern Utah, and in the San Rafael Swell area, it's everywhere. And from a distance, it has this like red sort of sheen to it. And I thought that I was looking at a hill of rubies. And then I got up there, and they're so heavy and just shiny and magnificent in your hand. And sometimes they are magnetic. But yeah, I could go on forever. That's a whole other podcast.
Yes, that's an entirely different show where we get too in the weeds about rocks. But second question, hey, do any of you have favorite Toho characters?
I don't know that I do. But that's just me.
No, it's a perfectly allowed stance to take.
Are we talking like Studio Ghibli right now?
No, you're talking I don't know how to properly pronounce Toho through my native English tongue, but it's the one with it's not Toho, it's like To, like it's got an
long.
Touhou. one of these days I'll just ask someone, hey, how do you pronounce Toho? So that people understand that you're supposed to have some U's in there. No, this is Toho, of course, a long-running bullet hell Dojin series with an very active fan game community is what we're talking about here on the show.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing this now. I do not have a favorite Toho character.
Perfectly.
We're so sorry to just.
It's impossible to disappoint because then someone else can just learn about Toho.
And much like you're learning about rocks,
yes.
now I have something to search.
Be like, oh, you can just make whatever games you want for this, like commercial games within Toho is an exceptionally interesting framework for like. I say with intense sneer quotes IP. But a very interesting approach to like fan works and independent development. That's why I like to mention it, so that people go, "Oh, what is this thing?" But I'll say, Ash, Brittany, Kate, thank you for joining me here on the segment.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This has been great.
And thank you, Jordan.
Yes.
Thanks, Jordan.
This.
No, thank you all so much. Yeah, no, Asunder was, just everything. Amazing contribution and really cool to have also a game from, multiple contributors since we did have mostly solo work. So, it was such a great contribution and so unique, I think, in terms of what's in the magazine. So, really awesome.
I will say these are like, I'll say off the top so I don't say it to each individual person. Having played through all these, this is like, Indiepocalypse main, just like hook it up to my veins. This is literally the kind of games that I'm constantly looking for. Like,
That's great.
It's the kind of stuff I'm like, yes, instantly, like instant selection, not even a thought. And that is like part of, another one of the many reasons why I'm just sort of like very excited about this project in general, because it's like, Indiepocalypse broadly, as I've told someone once during an interview, is just a thing that I make from, when they asked what the audience was, I just said it's myself. And it's nice to see someone else making a thing for me too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
no, I was so happy, honestly, like just to, slight detour, but just like, I was really happy when you were, because I knew I wanted to reach out to you about the project, early on, just because it was like, Indiepocalypse is so great, something that's very much, very inspiring to me. And then just like, also, so just like everyone I've ever talked to connected to Indiepocalypse has just had fantastic things to say about it and about your organization of it and everything else, So I knew I wanted to reach out to you when I was putting game poems together. But I wasn't sure, until I was like, is this gonna, anyway, I was very happy.
No, it's
when you were also excited about the game poems project. Even though, again, right, it's like, I see these things obviously as like, on the one hand, very adjacent, slightly different framings or whatever, right? And that's where it's like, I wasn't sure, but was I was really happy when you were enthusiastic about it.
No, Game Poems, especially to continue this tangent, has made me like, because Indiepocalypse is kind of like chaotic, so to speak, in terms of like its curation. It's a lot of it is like very all over the place. Somewhat by necessity, somewhat intentional.
In a good way, in a good way.
Somewhat intentional, like somewhat by necessity, because I come from a legacy of none, and people are like, who is this guy? So I didn't have like a game dev backlog of people who are familiar with my work or anything. So it's like you take what you can get, but also I realized like, like Game Poems is here's a perfect thing that it like encapsulates in the same way that like locally sourced is like here's all Michigan devs, or Cartomancy is like, hey, here's like tarot based games, and Game Poem, like I like to see people have avenues like here's a very focused one, and Indiepocalypse is like the equivalent of like the online version of the local indie game show, where it's like they're not like if you go to like a local indie, I think of comic shows because those like I know the most of that exist. like in this space. But they're not. They don't revolve around a theme. All the tables don't revolve around a theme, other than they are independent works.
Yeah.
And I feel like
which I think yeah.
And the longer I've done it, the more I realize I think Indiepocalypse works as being that kind of like value neutral, like theme neutral space for people to submit to. And hopefully with time, more focused spaces pop up around. So like, it's like, oh yeah, I got into Indiepocalypse, but I also like am more focused. Like I want to do all game poetry stuff. I want to do all thinky game stuff. I want to do all low poly horror stuff. And there are like these little niches you can go off to.
Yeah, no, I think I think we absolutely need both. So yeah, absolutely. That's I mean, I'm glad because that's definitely my feeling is like, we need the Indiepocalypses and the just the kind of broad indie tables, and then hopefully more and more kind of focus spaces as well that people can push into. So it's exciting.
Yes, very very exciting. We are here with our next guest. Hello, next guest, returning guest to the show. With let me pull up my pages so I'm ready for my intro. Usually I have everyone on a Google form, so I'm like just reading their thing and often firing up their links. But I don't have a Google form this time because I didn't know most of the people beforehand. I just kind of had to.
Yeah, that was me. I just kind of threw. That's right, because I was like, "Hey, what about could contributors come?" And
yes.
I'll send out invites, and then like, let's see who comes. And,
you're right.
So
that's fine. No,
not your fault.
No, I glad to have it. Glad to have so many people. I will say with our next guest from, if I'm correct, in a look of glass stops you, Brendan Allen. Brendan, hello.
Hello. It's nice to chat with you on Discord again, on Twitch. And,
yes.
Thanks for having all of us, and great to hear the voices of my co-contributors who I have not heard before.
Right. No, I am. This is like I think I probably told you this, however eternity ago when you were on originally. This show is kind of like creates a digital shared space for people to be like, hey, let's meet for the first time, or let's hang out, or because such a thing is a lot harder, I think. How many times I'm going to say during the show that there's not a lot of physical spaces,
Yeah, absolutely.
For as fun as it is for me to go and to get to actually see people at a maze, which is, I feel like, that's one of my like stop down points. Like, oh yeah, this is where I meet the highest quantity of people, or the highest concentration of people.
It really. I mean, in the like contributor Discord chat that's happening, Jordan just mentioned that this is sort of like a fun launch party,
right?
And honestly, it really is. It would be lovely for all of us to rent out a room somewhere, but where would we do that?
Right.
across the world.
What is the most central location, and is it Berlin? That might be the answer, but we're not here to wax poetic about like, oh, what if indie devs had a bunch of money and they could all travel all over the place and see each other?
Yeah.
Instead of it being kind of like, now this is just a loose thought that I'm throwing out into the ether.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, technically probably the ocean. A cruise liner, so you have to. When are the first indie game cruises? Who's going to start that ill-advised venture?
Well, I mean, I think I can speak for probably everyone in Game Poems that we're all doing it for the money.
Yes,
I think we're all making Game Poems just to really get rich.
Right?
So
hey, me too. I'm in it for the. if you right now, is it true? Like now, is it true that I am making more from my tax returns this year than I made on Itch.io this year? Maybe that might be true.
Yeah.
But that speaks more to just nobody buys things on itch, which is a broader problem in games in general, I think. Or that's just more. I don't think it's a problem. It's just an indicator of culture, I would say. An indicator of games culture.
I mean, I think it's really, I think it's tough for like all primarily like really independent art forms, because I'm coming into game poem making from, previously just working mostly in straight poetry with a capital T, whatever you want to call it.
Far less that extremely lucrative art form.
Yeah, it's so I've really taken a downgrade in how much I'm getting paid for my work.
You had to sell one of your seaside poetry funded mansions.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, actually, sort of the opposite in that I will say that I think both Indiepocalypse and Game Poems, I have been really impressed by like the amount of time and attention into like framing and talking about and considering this work as also labor too, and the fact that Indiepocalypse, every once in a while someone goes back into the Indiepocalypse archives and purchases the issue that I was a part of, and I see this little ding pop up with
$5.37.
$5.37 royalty, and I'm like, man, this feels meaningful that there has been this structure that you've really managed to put together as a way of recognizing the labor that goes into this work that I think I imagine comes from just a sheer amount of constant labor on your end as well, to keep all of it straight. And so
I like organizing spreadsheets. It's a lot of spreadsheets.
Great. Yeah, it seems that way. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of work, a lot of documenting all your expenses. It's just it's running a business, but a failing one, mm-hmm. Which is as I see more and more people, wealthy tech people dip their toe into projects that ultimately fail. I gotta say, this is my call to all those wealthy tech people. Hey, give Indiepocalypse a lot of money. I've a proven track record of failing projects. So remove the ambiguity and just give me $100K or whatever. Just give it to a bunch of artists. But I think the thing that I think about a lot, especially people as doom and gloom about the game space and indie space and threaten to start using the word Indiepocalypse again and a cringe earnesty of there being too many games, is that I don't feel the game scene is collapsing in any games as a medium are collapsing in any meaningful way. I think what's happening more is that game developers are realizing that they are artists and artists don't make money.
Mm-hmm. It's really, I think, because I now, as I continue working more on a game form, I very intentionally tried to reach out and connect with more people who make games, which is what even led me to Indiepocalypse and Game Poems in the first place, is just seeking out people also doing this kind of work. And it's been interesting see, because when you're working in more of just a straightforward poetry field, at least everyone that I was working around, the assumption is no one's going to give me any money for this whatsoever,
right?
And even in terms of the time that when I was getting an MFA in poetry, a Masters of Fine Arts, you had the poetry track and the fiction track, and I just remember a lot of my fiction colleagues, it was built into the curriculum for them how to go about acquiring an agent and having a conversation with an agent and like selling your novel concept to an agent. And, you know, none of that, I think with perfectly valid reason, was present whatsoever in the poetry track. And so this, I feel like wholly, on one hand, like wholly unprepared to reckon with, you know, I don't think I'll ever put a thing on Steam because the idea of just like the kind of like market aspect of it really stresses me out.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, I was thinking about that conversation just a little bit earlier that you were having with just throughout the show, and about this like distinction between like the video game industry and how it's always kind of tied to this sense of industry. And I was thinking about, there's this really good, really great book by Brendan Keogh, which, you know, he's great because he's got a great first name. But he has this book, The Video Game Industry Does Not Exist. And he's really saying, well, like, what happens when we start thinking about video game production as a field, you know,
right,
like as a field of production rather than an industry of production. And that, you know, that framed a lot for me in terms of like these kinds of ways in which the social communal aspect of making games and sharing games is in many ways more of a powerful force than like thinking about, you know, how am I going to get people to spend $8.99 on my game poem?
Yes.
Every
No,
month.
I you know, what you see in front of you as like the representative commercial game design that, you know, takes up the largest volume of people's attention, and the notion of what is a video game, I feel, you know, represents a very small slice of actual video games that are made, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like the like it just like does not cover the entirety of games.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the loudest one in the room. Also, it has a lot of money, like, and but I'm getting this. I'm trying to. Apologies to everyone who follows up next. I'm trying to get faster at this. I keep forgetting to get faster at this. Brandon, we haven't even talked about your game.
No worries.
What's up with it? You got a game. What's up with that thing?
Yeah, what's up with that thing? So the piece I have in Game Poems, The Look of Glass Stops You, is right now, I mean, I'm very much at the state in which every single game that I make is in itself also like an excuse to teach myself how to use the tools that I need to make the game,
right,
kind of thing. So it's this piece, it's built in Bitsy, and it was really my first time fiddling with the hacks in Bitsy, that the kind of community developed hacks that feel like a very kind of strange idiosyncratic thing to like take this really constrained intentional engine that is Bitsy, and then also take these really constrained intentional ways of modifying that, often made by other people, and then jamming that together for the piece itself. I think it's very, very intriguing in a kind of like collage sense. The like final product that comes out from all these things kind of working in tandem or thrashing against one another. But yeah, I mean, it's a piece, you know, it's about, you know, a couple different things, thinking about the kind of weird ways socializing in person often requires someone taking the kind of first risky social step to interact with another person. There's only 3 lines of text in it, but they're all coming from a poem I really love by John Ashbery, as one put drunk into the packet boat. And then there's also some art, and this is one of the ways I was using Bitsy hacks, is there's this line art in there of this kind of group of faceless numbered people, all in this kind of vaguely convivial setting. And that's art that I repurposed from I just kind of stumbled upon it at this place called the Arts and Letters Club here in Toronto. And it is it's one of those small line art drawings they put next to kind of a major like oil painting that has a bunch of like notable figures in it, and it's basically just a labeled like, here's who is where in that painting,
Right.
And so I really love the idea of this kind of social locator map, divorced from its original context of who the actual people are. And so it all got kind of like collaged and mashed together, and the piece came out of those things kind of swirling around. Yeah,
no, and that is, the beauty of, engaging with our art forms, and, it's the an eternal problem with games that you can run into is that people who make games only play games, but
I think that like I'm all for, everyone should be like reading and playing a whole variety of things, but
yeah.
I think that you get into that a lot with any kind of creative field.
Yes.
Is that it's
yes.
really
it's not
really
a
easy.
Strictly a game problem.
Yeah, like I think more poets should be playing video games, and I think
right.
more, filmmakers should probably be like reading comics and stuff. It just like, I think crossing media is a really creatively productive practice.
It helps you get out of like the insularity of it, and it helps you sort of like view things through a different lens, and I'm like, should I check this place out? I don't know. I'm looking forward to the unofficial home, Toronto, the unofficial home of Indiepocalypse. In that there's just a lot of people up there who know it.
It's great. I mean, it really, I live in kind of like northwest Toronto, and I've been very lucky too. There's a few other people who are, I know in the Game Poets Discord and have submitted work to the journal, who I've actually been just super lucky enough to even meet in person, because of there's this, if you're in the Toronto area, I guess this is a shout out to a event that I go to from time to time. It's this meetup once a month, called Dirty Rectangles.
Okay.
And
I was actually thinking of a different one, so I might be able to tell you about one.
Oh, great. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people making games in Toronto. I feel, having moved here from a very rural town in the Midwest, it's sort of a real eye opener. But yeah, there's a handful of people who are very much working in this kind of form, who go to this kind of this monthly meetup run by a few Toronto game makers, and I think they also have a group in Ottawa who does the same thing all together. And,
no, my mistake. I was thinking of the group I was thinking was in Hamilton, which I think is close to Toronto.
Yeah. Hamilton's nearby.
Yes. I was thinking of the Hamilton Game Cabal.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Run by long-running friend of the zine, tape maker, person who made the launcher for Indiepocalypse, Ash K.
Oh, cool.
Who does a lot of cool stuff up there in the Toronto area, the GTO, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But right now, you've done some preparation. I'm sure I have asked you these questions before, but by the very nature of, as everyone knows, podcasting is a sieve, which all information flows out of your brain the second you do it. So I'm going to ask you maybe once again for the first time. Hey, what's your favorite type of rock?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've thought about this extensively. I think Fordite right now is my favorite type of rock.
Okay.
Which is all the kind of automotive paint that has congealed into a multicolored rock in Detroit. So terrible for the environment, but really pretty.
Yes. and do you have a favorite Toho character?
I sure do now.
Yes. Okay.
I having no firsthand knowledge of Toho, I can say from spending some deep time on the wiki, there seems to be a character who is named Unnamed Giant Catfish.
Okay.
And there's something about this kind of nasty looking bored catfish man that I'm all for. Hopefully he has not done anything problematic in the games or shows, but
I'm sorry, unnamed giant catfish has been canceled, unfortunately.
Great.
People
Awesome.
looked up some of his old stuff he said on Twitter. And like he says it was like a different time, and apologize, but it's hard sometimes, to come out from underneath the stuff he used to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I'm sure he'll have a Netflix special in like 2 months.
Yes.
So.
And he's got his little catfish danglers in front of his mouth because he's being silenced. Anyhow, Brandon, thank you for joining me here today.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm going to...
Looking forward to hearing from everyone else, too.
Yes. Apology videos don't count. The apology videos just means you can go on Joe Rogan or whatever. You can... anyway. We've got our next guest before I get into making our next guest here. From... If I get this, let me make sure I get this correctly. From having made Tropic of Dinosaur, am I correct?
Yeah, that's
yes.
right.
Okay, yes. Because I only knew you through the internet handle of Boboka. Where Roman is joining me here. Hello, how you doing?
Hi, hello to everybody. Yeah, I am Roman, and mostly I'm Boboka.
Yes.
In my socials and everywhere.
I had the luxury of environmental storytelling in that Jordan calling you Roman for me to go, figured it out. Because when you added me, I was like, wait a minute, where was your name in this collection? I don't remember it.
It's probably the first time when I published something with my real name.
Right. I mean, a lot of internet stuff, is done under, is an internet handle published name much different than a band name, when you think about it?
Yeah, that's right.
But if people are, I'm in the third person, I'm in the rhythm of it. If people aren't familiar, hey, how would you describe Tropic of Dinosaur?
Well, in the description, I wrote that it's being walked simulator.
Yeah.
Like a walking simulator. It's easy to hear that English isn't my native language.
Yes.
So I really liked that phrase, being walked simulator. And I just couldn't find out how does it sound to people who speak English? Does it sound okay?
Yeah, no.
But, like you are walking a dog and like this, like you are being walked. Well, how to describe it?
Yes, and that's the fun part of this is like, hey, and it's the fun part I run into with Indiepocalypse in general of people making more abstract video games. Sometimes it's like the classic David Lynch answer of the film is doing the talking,
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'm not a big fan of talking about my games,
right,
or games in general. So I think that this medium, of course, it has its own language, and you don't have to translate it in.
Yeah.
You don't have to verbalize it. But sometimes, on the other hand, I'm an extremely talkative person. So I think you are lucky that I'm a bit awkward in English, because in my native language I could talk like for ages.
Yes.
I was playing a little game with my kids. It's called The Bear. the story from the world of Gra, something like that.
Okay.
It was called The Bear. And there is a huge bear-like creature which is sleeping somewhere under the ground in a cave. And it sleeps there, and it doesn't want to wake up and doesn't want to go anywhere. And you are playing as a little dude who must grab the bear by the hand and must take him out of those caves. And you are grabbing this huge bear. There is no physics there, no gameplay mechanics. It's very linear, so you just move the mouse and the animation plays. But it felt so great.
Yeah.
You felt the heaviness of this creature, and this emotion, this feeling of heaviness, it intertwined with the theme, with the idea, and it was just great. And when I was thinking about my own game, suddenly it came out, and well, how to say it? I think I feel myself like that bear. Like,
right. Yeah, no, like your game is, aside from like, is wordless aside from, one word. You have unless I'm trying to think of if I missed one, but you basically have a one word game, it is all unspoken.
Yeah.
Also, you clock in as you've got one of the long games in Game Poems, of course, and then it's about 10 minutes long. The epic game poem of this collection.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, that's also like part of the medium of, there is so much space to be for things to be said and unsaid, and to, like, in general, like, game poems doesn't mean one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Like, all of these, include so many different, like, engines and so many styles of, like, interaction. So many games that have finite and infinite end states.
Yeah. It was. I see. I also think a lot about what game poems are, and it's interesting because it was such a moment when I found out about the Zion, about Jordan's book, about the community around him and around this idea of game poems. It was such a moment, like, it's something I always was interested in. Like, for years, I valued it in the games I played. I tried to do it in my games, but I just didn't have a name for it.
Right.
And I didn't think about it as a thing, as an entity. And suddenly, whoa, it exists. It has a name, and there are people who are interested in it. Wow. And maybe once again, English is not my native language, and often when I comment on somebody's games, when I give feedback, I scratch my head and I think how to say it. I get it, but I can't say it. And very often the word poetic came to my mind, and I really liked it every time. And I wrote it, and I saw that, that's it. That's what I wanted to say about that particular game. This concept resonates with me a lot, and surely it can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah. It's, like it's that problem that you mentioned earlier, where games are just, like, too big to be defined. Like, the publicly accepted definition of games feels very small.
the word poetic, it's great. It
Yeah.
can be applied to lots of things, not only games, like a situation, a person, a phrase, anything, like anything can be poetic. The same, I don't remember who was talking about it, like different, Brandon, you
Yeah.
were talking about like different mediums, how to say it, interact with each other, with each other. I don't know. Like, for example, I also love the word plastique.
Yes.
I think like this. It's often applied to dancing, to belly dance, for example. But I think it applies to lots of other things. I often want to use it when I'm talking about games, for example. And the same with the word poetic and poetry.
Yeah, they're like evocative, and I mean, this whole collection is a collection of games showing the weakness of describing what you do in a game, describing a game based on what you do, because in what you do in your game is you can say, oh, you drag a guy around, but like. There's such a narrow way of describing what, like, it doesn't even begin to actually describe what the game itself is, and it's an overly simplified way, in the same, like, in a way that if someone asked you to describe a poem or describe a book or a movie or music, you would never describe any of those in such a simplified manner.
Yeah, there is an opinion that if you can't describe something like shortly in one phrase, it's bad. It means that you don't get it, or it means that it has nothing to say. And I strongly disagree with
Yes,
it.
no.
I think it's like the opposite of the truth for me. Like, I value the most when you can't describe it. Can't
Yes.
describe means can't verbalize, can't translate from the native language of the medium into the medium of the words, into literature. Long ago, when I was a kid, I studied drawing. It was like a small studio for children.
Yeah.
And we had a great teacher. Often he used the word literature, how to say it, when he wanted to tell somebody else that we are doing something wrong.
Right.
He came to my drawing and said, "What's that? There's a lot of literature here, like, do it differently." And I get it. He didn't mean to say anything bad about literature as a medium, but he was saying, like, speak in the language of drawing. Stop trying to turn your drawing into something else, into I don't know, a text.
Yes, but I know and that's like, the idea of solving and understanding art, like, after you've experienced it, or why you're experiencing it, is also like sometimes you may never fully understand something. You'll wrestle with it your entire life. Sometimes you won't be able to verbalize it. You'll have to, like, make your own art that kind of explains your relationship to another piece of art, because it is a lot of ways that these things cannot be easily verbalized.
It's a great point.
Like, I could not tell you, like, in simple words, like, what Tropic of Dinosaur is about, though I could, like, there are feelings inside of my body that know what they are, but cannot use words to describe what those are. So how do I tell another person about it?
Thank you. Like, it's great to hear it. It's exactly what I want people to feel during playing my game. One thing. Yes, game poems is a different thing for different games, for different people, and the word poetic means different thing. But I see something in common.
Yeah.
Often it means game playless. I think I can use this word for, like, all of the games in this Game Poems Zine, and not only here, but in many other games. And the same about my game.
Yes.
Initially, I wanted to make it, like it was said, obstacle-oriented. I wanted to make it. I wanted the player to make decisions which lead to different conclusions. I mean, it is already, but it happens mostly in the player's head, but I wanted it to be mechanical. Why? Because it's a bit scary. I don't want game poem to be equal to no gameplay.
Right.
I think it's not a very good direction, because gameplay is the language of video games, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
and you know, the question of like what qualifies as gameplay, you know, like, and I think I think that will like shift with time, you know. So you know, what we consider to be gameplay in 2025 will probably be a looser definition of that in 2030.
Yeah.
You know,
even the existence of the word gameplay is something. I know many good people who think that it should not exist, that it damages the discussion.
Yes,
and
right.
Partly I agree with them. But on the other hand, you know, one of my most favorite games is Nuclear Throne, the game which is about gameplay. And
yes.
I put, like 1,000 hours in it. And, you know, these were good thousands of hours. It's not some, I don't know, gambling. It's not some kind of a drug. I'm absolutely sure that there is something very valuable there in the gameplay. But you know, but at the same time, my game doesn't have a gameplay.
Right.
I want someday to make the game which is at the same time a poem and Nuclear Throne.
Yes, it's I think a lot about it as the idea of the simplest term is like having a balanced diet, you know. You know, like I also like a lot of very gameplay centric games that, you know, have you doing a lot of stuff, have you, you know, where you're a little guy and you run around and you collect points and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there is like at the same, like I want both of them. And it's the same way, like I make this complicated zine of all these art games and I tell people, hey, make more of these things. And in the same way that like my my musical taste is not all like field recordings and like slot machine music. It's also just like straight ahead music too at the same time. I reference it a lot because there is now. If I remember the title correctly, I think it is just called Slot Machine Music, and I do like it a lot. I think it is very good.
Sounds great.
It is. I mean, if you like field recording stuff, if you want to listen to a 30-hour track of just like a casino, just like going, it's weirdly hypnotic.
Sounds exciting.
But that said, hey, what's your favorite type of rock?
Okay. I also had time to think about it.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe you've played a game which is called The League of Lonely Geologists. It's a fantastic game. You are a geologist and you must dig rocks from under the earth, and every rock is procedurally generated, and all of them are beautiful, and you must give it a name, and you must give it a description. And you also have a book in which all the people around the world who played this game sent their rocks and their descriptions and names. And I spent just a lot of time going through this book and reading it and looking at all of those rocks, and those rocks are great. I love those rocks.
Yes.
And all the names. And if if anybody of you haven't played it, I definitely recommend it. And about music, well, that time that I was really into rock, I liked. It's sometimes called Siberian punk rock. It's like a small part of Russian punk rock music. It's really, really underground and at the same time a bit artsy and close to noise and all that stuff.
Yes. No, that's
So probably like this.
no. I love.
Thank you.
I want. That's a thing that I think we're gonna see more in games like that. It's kind of pop up more as like identifiable locational styles, like geographical styles of game making. In the way that like music definitely has those. Like historically and still currently has like you can pick out like a regional, as bands bounce off of each other.
Yeah, of course.
And second question, hey, do you have a favorite Toho character? Yes.
Unfortunately, no. I haven't.
Perfect.
Of course, I've heard about the Toho project, but I've never played it. Thank you.
Yes, we are prepared to our next guest. I was not looking at this thing inherently. I missed it. I missed a message. But if the next guest is ready, feel free to jump in at any point. Otherwise, I will continue to we can continue to. Oh no. Yeah, let me.
Yeah, I think we had Yifan had was with us from I believe from China, and
okay, so yes,
it's the middle of the night there, and we had something we hadn't I should have thought about a little bit more at the beginning here. So
yeah, that was
we were just thinking if they were just mentioning, oh yeah, it's 4:30 a.m. here.
Yeah, that's part on my fault of like not thinking like I find like a better time zone to accommodate everyone all over the world.
Oh, well, it's hard. I mean, it's like basically impossible, but
yes, no, I've done it before. There was like 2 hours that worked.
Can we hear
Hello.
Yifan? Oh, okay.
I think so. Hello.
Okay. Meaning I just can't catch up your conversations. It's hard to me. So.
Oh, no problem. That is, my project is international, and I usually am used to this sort of thing. So don't worry. So, you had made hesitation for the collection.
Yes.
How would you describe it for people who don't know what it is?
I will write in Chinese and translate to the English.
Yifan, also we can just say while they're translating there, also contributed the amazing cover art to to the issue 1 of the magazine.
Okay, I want to try to directly engage the player's emotions in this game to complete it. So I don't need stories or much gameplay. That I'm trying to do this in my game. So.
Yes, no, I think that comes across. I think it's like it's not only not only done the cover art, but are the first game in the entry for it, and I think it leads in very well. Or it's a good first example of games for the game poem collection. And like it really it shows you that it's very open ended from the start.
Actually, this is basically my first game that I made.
Okay, yeah, no, and I did. How do I phrase this? What is your experience with games before that? Like, have you played a lot of games, or did you come into this sort of new to both games in general and making games?
Yes, I play a lot of game, but like normal game, PS2, PS3,
Right.
PC, a lot of games.
So, how did you come across Game Poems? Like, how did you find it?
I don't know. I like poem and I like games, so I talked about this before. I just search the two words and I find out this page.
It's very, very, very good SEO, I guess, for Game Poems. That you can just search Game and Poems and come across it.
Yeah, yeah. I actually worked in the factory, so in the 说怎么说 work out. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. Now, realizing that it's so late in the morning for you, I don't want to hold you here for too long, so you can go back to sleep or go to sleep for the first time. But did you have any last things you wanted to say before I let you go?
Wait a moment.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here as well for a moment while they're typing. Yeah, I remember, Yifan, I still remember your introduction in the Discord and saying something along the lines of, that you were searching for games and poetry and had stumbled into our Discord somehow. And like Andrew was saying, a remarkable SEO. I mean, I was amazed. And it was I remember that being actually one of the coolest moments for me early on, or early-ish on with the Discord was when you popped in there and said that, because it was so cool to see someone coming in from a completely different part of the world. I think at that time we had again, mostly people wandering in from the Americas and Europe and things. And I think you were, talking about, your interest in this combination and how it was hard for you finding, you were having a hard time in China finding people to connect with on this. And it was just, that to me was just one of those sort of magic moments of the internet or whatever, of being able to connect with someone from across the world who again had found, this similar interest. And then, and then not to say anything of it was, your entry was so appreciated by I could say, all of the editors and all of the first readers who encountered it. And everyone was also, kind of amazed and about it being the first game you had made. And that was another moment for me that was just so impactful, right? Of just again this idea of wanting people, right, to be able to come in and make games from all sorts of backgrounds, and seeing that being your first game was just was kind of a remarkable moment for me. So anyway, just a couple of tangent points from my perspective on those things, but yeah.
Thank you. I think I'm fine. Sorry, my English is not good. And last thing is, in China, connect with your guys is not so easy. I use VPN and we doesn't use Discord in China, so it's hard.
Right.
And I don't know why the PayPal doesn't pay me. They send back the money.
Yes, that is.
Oh no.
I have come across a lot of trouble sending international payments in my history. Sometimes. It's just the misfortune of international monetary stuff. I've got a number of people of like, I just can't send them anything. But
yeah, thank you.
No, thank you for working your way through a VPN. Thank you for being up so late. Just to be here on the show. Thank you for being in Game Poems and finding this and getting it all together to begin with.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that as well, Yifan. First of all, yeah, definitely let's be in contact about the honorarium payment, because I don't remember seeing something about that. But if there's any way we can find a workaround for that, let's definitely try to do that. But also just wanted to say likewise, just that, thank you for your effort and dedication in terms of connecting with our community. And just the sort of hurdles for you that don't necessarily apply to everyone. We really appreciate your being part of the community and really appreciate your contribution to the magazine.
Okay. I'm done.
All right, thank you. So now we have. Let me fire up our next guest. Yes, if you're still listening, this is no problem at all. This is not my first rodeo or like my fifth, sixth, seventh of someone being like, I'm speaking a lot in English for the first time in a public space. But joining us next, with Gambit. And I'm going to leave people to correct me if I'm ever wrong. With Gambit, is Caitlin DeRosa Galen. Hello?
Hello.
Yes. So, hey, how's it going? I'm just resetting. How's it going?
It'll start from square one.
Yeah. Well, it's a mode, like, as I've done this radio show enough times, it's a mode I've shifted into before where I start to, like, I do when I send emails, too, where I need to, like, get into this brain of like rethinking my language,
Yeah, definitely.
And trying to find like, well, what are the most like translatable ways of saying something, either through like literal translation or like just like on the fly, like what are not taking for granted turns of phrase. But let's talk about games. You made one for this project.
I did make one.
If people are unfamiliar, hey, how would you describe Gambit?
Gambit is kind of like a repetitive, reflective, monologue-y Game Boy game poem.
Yeah.
It's made to run on a Game Boy, so we're running it through an emulator.
Yes.
It's made in GB Studio. It is a game about kind of falling into rhythm and getting really comfortable in a life that maybe you're not completely fulfilled with. It's a very personal piece.
Oh yes.
It's very like, this is a game where I talk to you, which is like more of I think a straightforward interpretation of a game poem where I think a lot of the entries didn't feature a lot of words. Mine's very like word heavy.
Right.
I don't know. I think I like that these can all fall under the same kind of definition. It's fun.
Yes, but it's with games, a lot. I mean, art in general, a lot of art can say a lot while also not explicitly explaining itself.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think Gambit, for everything Gambit says, it doesn't say, hey, the character doesn't walk out in the front and say, this is what this game is about. Let me explain it to you.
Yeah, like fade to black.
Yeah.
So guys, and Caitlin here to explain the game poem.
Yes. I was working a job.
So basically, have you ever heard of retail?
Yeah. It's like that, except you only give people food.
Yeah.
First, let me explain retail to you.
Yeah. Link to the Wikipedia page.
Yes, there is a lot. There's a lot left to be unsaid in games.
Mm-hmm.
And just like a lot left to be unsaid in art. And to speak on literalism, I like to think that the character wasn't literally walking around a giant clock's face. That was perhaps more representative.
Mm-hmm. That's me when I go to work. That's how I feel.
Yes.
I'm like, I think like my fun fact about development is that the majority of the game was developed inside a coffee shop.
Yes.
And sometimes inside my coffee shop. I work at like a chain coffee shop / bookstore, and there aren't a lot of those. So if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But I kind of had this like fascination with like, can I make a game on the clock?
Oh yes, no, Kaylin. Let me tell you about someone who would fire up like a cloud-based note taking and would write code at work.
Oh my god, I love that.
And hope it worked when I got home. This is a very familiar experience to me.
Yeah, I started doing it, and like my coworkers like kind of like thought it was weird because I like bring my laptop and nothing else, and I'm like, you don't understand. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's like you only have so much time in the day,
Yeah.
Because
oh no, continue.
No, what was I? Okay. Well, like, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say because I think that I think what can kill like the death of like the modern, like not even modern, the all artist, the eternal artist, is that you got to do an actual job to live.
Yes.
And then you get tired, and then you don't want to do games when you get home. You don't want to make your art when you get home. That when you're doing it at work, it feels like you're sneaking something. It feels like you're getting away with something.
Yeah. It really does feel like so illegal.
Yeah.
To do anything other than like sit down and stare at a wall for like my lunch break.
Right.
But
you're sneaking away and doing art on your lunch break, and like, or even if you can like sneak it on the clock, you're like,
yeah. I would kind of do this thing where I was like, okay, the actual coding and the programming and the art I will do on my lunch break, but the conceptualizing and the drafting, things that I don't have to do in front of the computer,
right,
I would do like behind the counter, or I would do it while I was sweeping, because like we have this super big tiled floor, and like our store pays for a cleaning service for the rest of the store, but not for the cafe.
Yeah.
Which means like at the end of the night, I have an hour to just like stand there and sweep. So I had like a completely different idea for a game that I was going to make, and then I was sweeping the floor while we were still open, and this game kind of talks a little bit about some of the people that I see every day, and one of those groups is like the very dedicated chess players, which I have like a admiration for.
Right.
I think chess is a game that I in theory know how to play, but I really can't do it.
Yeah, it's like a millennium long hobby,
Yes. Yeah, so it's like I was sweeping and I was staring at the floor, and like I could hear like the clacking of like the chess pieces, and I looked up, and like the guy, I know him because he comes in every day, and he was playing by himself, like against himself, because no one else had showed up that day, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I wish I like had that.
Right. Like the strength of like having a hobby,
Yes.
Or just like, it's the idea of like, I think that it's something that people forget to think about a lot of the time, of the idea that every other human being also lives 24 hours in a day like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And you get these like moments of insights, like exemplified in your game, like when you observe that in another person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
like it's like a weird genre of fiction where I'm like imbuing so much meaning onto a person that doesn't even know that I'm thinking about them, and it like feels kind of weird and invasive. But it's also like I don't know, art maybe that's what art is.
Right. Art is its own weird, invasive kind of like yeah, like what is conceptually art?
Yeah.
This grand human tradition that we've done since probably we've had like the second time a human had like a little bit of free time, you know, where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, if I scratch a rock on this wall, it leaves a mark behind.
Yes.
Huh? What if I just drew that little thing? What if I made a representation of that little thing I saw outside yesterday?
And now we're here.
Now we're here. Now we've got the art industry. Now we've ground it down to a fine paste,
Yup.
into a clean commercial product.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. Oh well. But I mean that is also allows us the strength and ability to connect with each other. You know.
Oh, definitely.
I'm just on your as I often do when I talk to people, and I start scrolling through all their stuff, and I'm on your own website. I'm like, oh wait a minute, I know Ribo.zone.
Yes. That was, I believe, one of an Indiepocalypse contributor.
Yes.
We don't know each other, but the wonderful internet has led me to find their page and find their CSS, and I'm like, I don't want to write CSS, so
yes.
I think I sent them $10 on Ko-fi, and I was like, love your CSS.
Yeah, like it's the pleasures of the internet being a small space, you know.
Yeah, it's like the adjacent people that you don't really know, but you sometimes know, and then sometimes you get to meet them, and sometimes you don't, but you still get to appreciate their things. Yeah.
the kind of like more broadly speaking, I would describe Indiepocalypse as like a loose interconnectedness of awareness, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Or that it's like, oh, I'm a tavern keeper, so to speak, and people come in and out of this, and sometimes they see each other, sometimes they see the remains of each other, like the evidence that somebody else was there. And I think that's like good for both like social life and like art, of like exhausting to be part of like 80 communities, but fun to be like, go to a con and be like, hey, and wave to another person.
Yeah, I have my professor my professor, and also I'm a student. I study games, and my professor, and also maybe studio director is the right way to say that.
Okay.
I intern for him, and he also is on the production team for Game Poems, and also was an Indiepocalypse contributor. JD Calvelli.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was linking both like your location on your game. I'm translocating it between that and the production team and the Indiepocalypse, and I was like, yeah, that's JD.
Yeah, JD. He's my professor. I get to see him every day. I remember I didn't find Indiepocalypse through him, but I remember I've been like an Indiepocalypse lurker for a while. And I remember I think he was in issue 60-something, 63. Maybe?
Yeah, Caitlin, there's been so many of them at this point.
I don't remember. I've
gotten much worse at remembering.
Yeah, but I remember he had submitted to like the jam link, and I was like stalking it, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It just like, it was such a weird moment where I was like, oh, like people I know in real life also can see the same things that I see online, and there's like, I love the ways in which they can connect, and it's fun to like see a person every day that you also see on the internet, but also be able to reach people you'd never be able to see every day. I don't know. Internet is a beautiful, wonderful mess.
No, it's a beauty of like when I go to events, I am able to meet a lot of these people in person for the first time, and being able to go to like, you know, like a maze, but also like, I'm like, well, now I'm gonna have to remember. I don't think I've met JD because I've been to, you know, the Anime NYC.
I think so. I'm sure. I don't know if he would have told me, but he hasn't mentioned it.
I'm trying to remember. Like, I feel bad if I don't remember. But, you know, it's easy to come across like, oh, here's a bunch of people, and then like be able to like see each other quickly. But we are burning just like getting into casual conversation and hanging out. Yeah. Which is what this show is actually about. So to talk a little about the game real quickly before we get into the two important questions. Hey, Game Boy, what drew you to the Game Boy appeal? I know like GB Studios definitely made it a lot easier to work in Game Boy.
Yes. Game Boy for me, I have always been like I'm a youngin. I'm a very new developer.
Yeah.
And I wasn't around. Actually, no, that's not true. I did have a Game Boy growing up, but it was a hand me down that eventually broke. But I really love like the physicality, and I really love like handheld console. So the idea of like being able to make something that can be then put into this physical form is like super appealing to me.
Yeah.
And I have a copy of Gambit on a cartridge. Happy about that.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like mainly the physicality that kind of draws me in. Also, just like GB Studio was a tool that I'd known about for a while but never used. Gambit was my first like GB Studio experiment, and it's like a super accessible form, thus easy to work on my lunch break.
Yes.
Oh, Jordan also has a handheld version. That's awesome.
I've aspirationally wanted to get the tools for burning Game Boy carts just so I can do that more.
I actually, on the topic of like human connection and meeting people at cons, I it's not super hard to figure out how to do.
Yeah.
But I was at because I live on Long Island, and we have like not a lot of game stuff happening here.
No, you've just
we
got
have one.
The thing you're probably going to mention.
Yeah, I have the Long Island. We have the Retro Game
Yep.
Expo, and we have the Top. And the Retro Game Expo, I met couple of other Game Boy developers who really, really, really knew their shit. And I remember there was one booth. It was Game Changer Mods. They're based in Brooklyn, and they do like Game Boy, like modification, and they also like sell their own games. I think I'm not totally sure. We haven't kept in contact, but the guy who was running that booth, I had asked him about it, and he literally like wrote me a list on like how to do it, what to buy. And I was like, oh god, I love that, because like I could have found it through the internet, but like that's so not as fun.
Right. No, people are definitely like once you get into like art spaces, I feel like people are just like excited to have other people in it, you know, and they're like, like, oh yeah, because I made like fancy cases and stuff for like, because Taylor McHugh had sent me a bunch of her games like to sell, like, oh, made a bunch for a TCAF, and like I got like little DS carts or little DS cases made for holding Game Boy games. And it's like, oh, it's fun to just make a full physical like release of a game. Yeah,
there's like a lot of weird like legal loopholes and like ethical questions that come about when like I was doing a lot of research into this, where I'm like, oh, like how can I do this? Can I do this on a larger scale?
Right.
And the answer is like, yeah, kind of, but it's kind of dubious.
Right, but that's, I mean, people forget like the thing about laws. If you don't like them, people forget that you can also just break laws.
This is true. This is also true.
Like they forget you can do that.
Also an option.
Right. Like it's always there. You can always just not obey laws you don't like.
Amazing advice.
And often just get away with them. Like most of the time people are just like not paying attention. Laws are things we made up, you know. They're not real.
They're suggestions.
They're just like a thing human beings made up. But did you happen, when you were at, I don't know what year you had gone, did you see the Game Tank? I like the Game Tank. I met the Game Tank guy at one point.
The Game Tank?
The Game Tank is a custom, someone made their own new 8-bit console.
And
I
think I have heard of this.
Yeah. It's called the Game. It's like this big blue brick. I have a pin of it on my desk.
It's kind of beautifully ugly.
Yeah, it's just like a nice brick. I mention also because it's crowdfunding right now, so I recommend people who are interested in like retro hardware stuff. Check out Game Tank.
Yeah, maybe throw some money their way.
Yeah, get yourself a dev kit, which is also the kit that you make games in. But
I need to look into that.
Yeah, no, I with that said, hey, Kaylin, I got to know about rock. It's rock,
yes.
Parenthesis S. What's your favorite type?
I think chalk.
Okay. Now I'm like, chalk is a rock? I suppose it is.
It is a rock.
Now,
Technically.
you've got me going, wait a minute, what the hell is chalk?
It's just a
yeah,
rock. It's
I know.
like limestone or something.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you took for granted. You're like, wait a minute, what is this thing?
Anything chalk I feel like is the chalk streams. Oh my god, I want to go. Jordan's talking about chalk streams in Winchester. I like chalk because I am an illustrator and I like drawing, and it would be harder to draw with other rocks, but I'm sure it could be done. Right.
Other rocks are good, but the quantity of surfaces that they can draw on is much lower.
Yes.
And
constraint though breeds creativity.
Yes. That's like also to Koyo in the chat, I do think a lot about, as I do these projects, of the Natalie Lawhead's conveyed anecdote of the weird thing about like the weird interconnective tissue in indie games is Indiepocalypse, and it's weird to be that connected, like as a human, it's kind of like the most abstract version or the most codified version of imposter syndrome. Like, well, no, that's a thing that other people are. It's a thing that exists. That it feels weird to be that person in any sort of situation. As I'm sure,
it's for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure it can also feel weird to be like, oh, I'm part of this pilot issue of this important collection here. And I'm sure that it can also, that itself can feel strange to be like, oh, I'm part of this thing, you know. But speaking of a thing that a lot of people, REP, I'm too slow at chat. That I reply to chats at all is often not at all, except unless it's people that I know, or people that have been around long enough that I feel familiar. But a second question: do you have a favorite Toho character?
So I'm not super familiar with Toho. I've done my time in the wiki mines, and I was also going to say the giant catfish, but Brendan took that answer, and two people can't have the same character. That's just not allowed.
No.
So I'm gonna say no, but I would like to say that on the wiki, the giant catfish has one ability which is listed as it can make earthquakes, and one line says that its gender is unknown. So I'm just putting more information out there for the giant unnamed catfish heads.
Yes,
you might need to form a group about this.
for people who are curious about the giant unnamed catfish, let this be Indiepocalypse, the very first game jam, the giant unnamed giant catfish jam.
Yes.
Give him his due.
Yes. I support this.
I also recommend anyone who's I need one but I can't find one, I always recommend Clown Piece. I think Clown Piece is a good entry level Toho. A good outfit. The weird clown that has and an American flag dress, kind of.
That's the only other character I've ever heard of, other than giant unnamed catfish.
Yes. But anyway, Clown Piece is a good one. A nice, ridiculous design. Okay, thank you for joining me. We're getting ready. We're spinning up to our next guest, and I have to go, uh-oh, this is a guest. I'm going to not know what game they made. They're going to have to tell me. Thank you. Hello, welcome to our next guest, who's going to, hey, what's up? How you doing? Next guest. Hello.
Hey there, how's it going?
Good. Now, I based on your username, I do not know what you made.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm Geoffrey.
Okay.
I made firsts.
Hello, Geoffrey. Welcome.
Hi. Lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you here. Now, the question I've asked you, you're well versed for. Hey, if people are unfamiliar, hey, what is firsts?
So, first came kind of haphazardly. I heard about the Game Poems magazine. So there's quite a bit of a story here, so let me take you back. I heard about the Game Poems magazine about 2 weeks before the call to submissions was ending. And when I heard the concept of Game Poems, I was like, damn, that's something that I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
You know, like thinking about games as poems, mixing the two art forms together. That was one of the first things when I started making games that really interested me, was how can we represent feelings and emotions like poems do,
Yeah.
but for the game format. I know that music did it too with symphonic poems, and I was, interested in exploring it, but with mechanics and gameplay and using this new medium really to try and convey the same emotions and feelings that poems can do, but they do it for literary form, obviously. So, 2 weeks before the deadline, I heard about it, and I was like, I've been thinking about games poems for so long. I absolutely need to be a part of this if I can. So I whipped out first in about, I think it was a total about like 24 hours spread out over a week. I was just like trying to put it together outside of work as fast as I could. And originally the idea for first was, because the Game Poems magazine first issue's theme was first moves. So what does first moves evoke to you? And for me, it was, well, okay, how can I represent that feeling of doing something for the first time, but with only mechanics, without words, without anything else, without art even, well, not like representational art almost, with just geometric shapes. How can I just represent that feeling of beginning, doing something for the first time, whatever that something is? And my original concept for first was to get the player through a series of vignettes where the interaction bit that they would have to do to progress would be ever-changing. So it's essentially every time they're presented with a new vignette, they don't know how to interact with it. They have to just press things on their mouse or move around or basically do something to progress. Due to my time constraint, I ended up only with 3 pieces. But I think actually it strengthened the piece somehow. So to all of this long-winded path and journey to come to what first is. First is an exploration of what it feels like to begin in a haiku form. So 3 vignettes, 3 moments in your life, 3 emotions attached to beginning.
And I think the threes, like, the threes does, like you said, ends up being a strength of it, of like, because it conveys the ideas, of you're able to, like, you become just like sort of like just familiar enough each time. But each time you do, like you said, kind of like start again. But within a familiar framework each time.
Cool.
And
minimal inputs. You just move, you click, you hold. You drag your mouse around, and I used some really cool artwork that as references. From Sophie Tauber-Arp and Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, which are really impressive paintings. And I always like to do that when I'm doing a game poem, is kind of also put my own like spin on an existing artwork and take it and see how interactivity and movement can be added to the art piece. So that's also another aspect that I wanted to do.
Right, because it's a lot of it, like, art is transformative in, so many ways. And it comes up occasionally when, people ask like, oh, can we use like existing assets or even like the idea of like plunder ludics or plunder core, whatever you call the genre of, using a lot of pre-existing assets. But like, and my thought always is like, is it like sufficiently transformative, And I think it is, like,
absolutely.
Like you take the work and you merge it into something that is more than just like borrowing the assets, and saying, oh, I just took this art because I needed background art for my game, It provides.
I think it's kind of representative of what we do as artists. Well, all art is never created in a vacuum. We've all been inspired and exposed to a bunch of societal constructs and to artwork of our own. And it's when you create art, I think it's a bit of a accumulation of everything you've experienced before. So recognizing that almost like explicitly is still an important part for me, I think. And I think Brendan did that as well, like with his piece, which I appreciate it. It's like you put your own spin, you put your own experience on the artwork, you make it evolve for a new time, maybe for a new society. I don't know. I feel like that's interesting too. And and your new piece becomes your own kind of. Okay, this was, especially in my case, it's pretty abstract artworks, right?
Yes.
So I was like thinking like, okay, what does it evoke to me? And for example, the Sophie Tauber artwork, it was very homey, very cozy. There was lots of warmth in it, so it felt like home.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is perfect for what I want to represent for my feeling. I'm just going to create a home.
Yeah, and it
and
shows
then take it through.
And it shows the also, like, you know, as we talked about multiple times on this for a while on the show, like the breadth of like what this game poems means, because even two people who are both, you know, borrowing an existing piece of art, you know, reinterpret that art in like two radically different ways, you know. You know, your
yeah, exactly. The interpretation is fully like melded in your own take.
Yes.
I added my own feelings. Maybe Brendan did something a little bit more illustrative with his. Like,
yeah,
it's great.
Yours is very immersive. Like you put the player like within the art. You know, your game is housed within the art.
And for me, they represented worlds, and I really wanted the player to just feel like they were part of it.
Yes, yeah, and it works. Like it takes what it would be like a large piece, and you kind of like drill down to a small part of it. You know, create like these small homes inside these sections of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is it's the benefit of being able to also, like, one of the benefits of being able to like fly under the radar quietly of just like, just borrow stuff here and there. But there is like, what was I saying? Lost the thread. I had it and then it escaped from my brain.
Happens.
Yeah, no. There's like, in the like, because also like using, you know, abstract shapes as you chose to do, sort of like, you know, in the greater sense of poetry as an abstract, you know, not being like a thing, like not being a guy. Like you could have made them all guys instead of like circles, squares, triangles, you know. Mm-hmm. But that brings a different notion to things, you know.
Yeah, I think actually I was quite surprised when I saw the other entries in Game Poems, and all fantastic entries, by the way. Really recommend you checking it out if you're listening and you haven't really gone there. Hope that this whole podcast is encouraging you to check them out.
Yes.
But what I was really surprised actually is that I think I'm the only one with abstract shapes, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but I think I am. And for me it was like, but I thought like my own interpretation of what a game poem was almost so ingrained in me in what I imagined it to be.
Yeah.
That for me it had to not have art almost, or very limited art. And then all of these others that make use of art in a very, very beautiful way, very also evocative way that's fully different from my own interpretation of what a game poem was. And that's really what I've been enjoying about this issue. And talking with other contributors, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think...
I think there were... Oh, sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just hopping in on I just had the contents pulled up again and was admiring the different cover art and whatnot, but just thinking about, it's like one of the things, again, we were trying to get really with curating the final selections for this first issue, right? One of the things was that we really were trying to, myself and the other editors, trying to really show a wide spectrum, right? As much as possible to, in terms of what, again, like what a game poem might be, what it could look like, how it could engage poetic ideas or themes. I think it's like it's really the aesthetic range, I think, and styles and approaches different works in the end, right? Like it's, I think, a really a really wonderful range. And I think we do have other. I mean, I think first definitely. I mean, I think again one of the reasons. Geoffrey, that we were really excited to include your piece was that I mean I've made a number of games that kind of make use of various degrees of abstraction, symbolism, and whatnot myself in the past, and it's like we were definitely very interested in featuring your game as something taking that approach, and then I think you have connections and things like obviously with like snakeisms too, right? It's like fairly abstract, but obviously in the sense of just that original sort of snake aesthetic, but very very much basic shapes, but of course connected to that idea that we associate with the snake game, and then various other kind of I think kind of maybe a range of more to less abstract or whatever, but just I think it's great to see. To me, it was like very fruitful to. And inspiring to see kind of all these different aesthetic approaches and including we were very very excited, Geoffrey, for your kind of approach in that regard.
You don't really appreciate it, and really excited to be part of this edition. Honestly, it's been a dream. Really, really cool. I think like the reason why for me like abstraction like this, like almost like brutal abstraction with just shapes is important in my approach to game poems, is because then it puts the emphasis fully on the mechanics, on the interaction itself, on what makes it a game, in my opinion, almost like what makes a game is the interactivity bit. So if you remove almost any anchor or as many of the anchors as you can, then what's left, and what makes the player almost like project meaning onto the piece. I'd like to see more of those. Like I am increasingly excited for more, like, because I think games, especially in the all-encompassing swallowing of the industry and that sort of thing, games can sometimes like they get caught up in software a lot. And like and hyperrealism graphics,
right? And games is solvable, which I think is like is like kind of this inherent trap of the solvability of a game. So I like more like just difference of opinion, like strong irreconcilable difference of opinion.
That's how we make the medium progress, right?
No, I've reserved myself in talking about it earlier and talking about gameplay and just like, perhaps sometimes it should be killed. But that is
kill gameplay.
Kill gameplay is one of my like most exciting things I think that happened in games in like a long time, because it was like people are just like cannot agree with, like, it's like irreconcilable opinions about game making, and it's good to see people who have like strong, like to see like strong differences of opinion, and and also for not to be like so concrete, like it's not like a clear manifesto, and I think that's like what works the best, because like we've talked on the show, what is a game poem? A game poem is not one thing. A game poem is like an idea of a thing, and it'll like each. But as someone who does make a collection of games every month that is largely disparate from each other, game poems, game poems, the proper noun game poems number one, Jordan's dragging up old man shit and talking about not games, and Tale of Tales and all these things in the chat. Like we've had different words for them forever.
I find it kind of interesting how this movement comes in through each medium almost.
Yeah.
Like with literary work, we had the Dadaist movement
Right.
that was trying like to break the rules. As soon as the literary medium was trying to get entrenched into its rules and into its modes of operations, and then Dada just came in and like, you know what, like fuck language. Oops,
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's allowed. This
That's
is
your F-bomb for the. That's your F-bomb for
Yeah.
the show.
I've asked
and-
before. Well, you know what is the video game version of Duchamp's Fountain? You know, do we have that?
Yeah, and then with music, we see the same thing happening with like concrete music, and,
Yeah.
and just like basically going into the industrial side of things, where we're playing with sounds and just making sounds without any kind of musical structure. I think like the idea of not games and kill gameplay was almost like the next logical step for games
Yeah.
as a medium, because we're quite a young medium, but
Yes.
we're seeing that as it's being accepted and mainstreamed and popularized, suddenly games need that refractory movement with like, no, like we do not like that definition of games. Games can be so much more. And it's just been amazing to see that. And I don't think it's an old man's mention of not
Yeah.
games. I think it's very current, very active.
Right.
We should exploit even more.
I know. It's
You know, it's
it-
still
it's-
needed right now. Kill gameplay
Yeah.
is a representation of that too.
yeah. It's a kind of the joke on the age of the medium, where something from 10 years ago is old man stuff. You know.
We needed to be brought back up. We needed to just keep talking and exploring what games can be.
Yes. Yes.
Especially with as all these big titans are trying to make it into an automated process. I don't know, like the latest news on Genie, for example. It's important for us to have poetry, to have not games, to have these contrary movements to show what it's like to be a game, to be human, to still like it's not about being products, it's about an art form, right?
Yes. The games are so like, I think part of the curse of their youth is like a cohesive alternative scene never really like coalesced. Like it was too close to the existence of the internet.
Mhm.
That like a cohesive alt games didn't bore out like a lot of like independent festivals and stuff like that, and these spaces. It got too kind of subsumed by the internet too quickly, and then a lot of people get out, or they just like don't like. Few and far between do people who have been around like forever feel like they kind of like still engage currently with the art form.
Mm.
A lot of people, and understandably in some ways, kind of like get their bag and get out.
Yeah, I think that it's almost like we give. Well, I was about to say we give up too quickly, but that's not true. Like, I think with those kind of things, what happens is it comes back in waves. First, and then it gets picked back up, and then picked back up, and then picked back up maybe 30 years after, and eventually it will penetrate. Eventually it will have its impact on the medium as a whole.
Right.
That's kind of what happened with literature as well, and I think we'll see the same here. Before it becomes mainstream, it's going to be a long time, and it's going to need a lot of pioneers, a lot of people trying to move to move towards that direction until it gets accepted as a whole, and we see players actually following it in a more global effort.
on what iteration of a Terry Kavanagh free games blog are we on at this point?
Yeah, exactly.
It all cycles through, and it all kind of like, you're right, it like builds momentum every time. Like every time like something feels kind of like left behind.
Yeah.
But that if it does get sort of like left behind, so to speak, there is more for people to pick up every time. There is like, and there's more identifiable groups, each time as well. Being looking at your website, of course, as I often look at people's websites, and being oh yes, the very short degree of separation as a member of Paradise Collab.
Yep.
whom I'm intimately familiar with, like 90% of the members of.
Yes, Paradise is great.
yeah, and like things like Paradise popping up are like sort of like they're not centralized in the same way, but they carry this new spirit of like TIG source and stuff from like way back when, of like, oh, here's a bunch of developers kind of hanging out in a space.
Yeah, it's by hanging out and by keeping pushing and not giving up that we
Yeah.
make the medium move forward. I think Jordan had a very interesting point in the Discord chat. I might
Yeah.
like just paraphrase here. It's that video game design textbooks still seem to frame video game design mostly in the same way that we were doing 20, 30 years ago.
Yes.
And that's a very good point, but it's almost like the video game as a medium is super young, and we've been almost like tricked by its rapid development due to it being associated to tech and
Yes.
tech having exploded and sped up so fast. So everyone was focused on the technical aspects of game development, right? And we're almost reaching the logical conclusion of that tech of that tech pursuit with hyper realistic games, right? But I think 20, 30 years ago, it's not actually that big when you're looking
Yeah.
at it as an art form as a whole.
Yeah, like when
20, 30 years is like nothing.
Right. When were people scared of that train coming at the screen? You know, that was forever ago.
Yeah. That was barely 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Barely. So I think because of that constant, almost like race for improvements and the acceleration of all of this kind of exchanges and movement with tech and with information being what it is today, we kind of forget sometimes that mediums still need to take their time in order to evolve and penetrate the widest stream of people, of consciousness, kind of thing. Like, there's still people that don't even know what a video game plays like.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's still quite young in terms of, like, if you look at a wider population, we're in a very lucky spot right now that it seems to be growing and growing, but in the wider population context, it's still quite small.
Yeah, no, it is. It's. I think I wish I remembered who said this. I don't know how to find it at this point, but there was some bit of game discourse that I gleaned a tiny bit of at one point. Someone posited the notion of, like, within film, people understand, even if they don't know, even if they couldn't name one, they understand, like, the concept of an art house movie. But, like, not the same within games, you know. Like,
yeah.
Like the average person doesn't even understand it. Like, to speak of the youth, doesn't understand, like, you know, not only how to play games, like, that's even, like, it's like one level further away, you know, where people, like, fully are like still so unaware of, like, what the medium is sort of on a fundamental level to that point. But I have a couple questions for you, Geoffrey.
Please.
Now, you've had the second most time to prepare for this question. What's your favorite type of rock?
My favorite type of rock, and I'm gonna go contrary to most people here. I'm gonna go with music rock, electro prog rock, just because it's my favorite genre of music of all time, and I just like it, and I love it. And and if I have to name one band from it at the moment, which I think they're absolutely killing it and really evolving the genre, is Sleep Token. I think they're doing absolutely amazing, and I wanted to shout them out. So here you go.
Sorry, what was that again? Sleep what now?
Sleep Token.
Okay. I am an obsessive freak who's got, like, you know, a 1,500 list thing of artists, like, albums on Bandcamp to listen to. So
nice.
I am always, like, I mean, that's just generally how I engage with art. I just build giant lists and slowly work my way through them.
Hell yeah.
So I have to. I'm like,
I've got a similar list for a bunch of games on itch.io, for example.
Yes. No, I have like an 11,000 game list on itch.
There you go.
I mean, I've played through some of those, like, and I just haven't removed them from that list and put them on another list. I have my to play list and my to play two. To play two is games that have been played.
We will eventually make our way through this endless backlog.
Yeah, yeah. Almost like there's too much art.
It's great. It's amazing.
What is the world's greatest problem to have? Of simply too much art in our lifetime to ever experience.
Exactly. Look, why do we all focus on, you know, making money and trying to survive? Like, we should just be consuming art all the time.
Fucking, this whole money thing is a scam.
Consuming and producing art. That's it.
I can't believe we let money survive for so long. It's such a scam.
Such a scam.
Like, we have all the resources, like, to just, like, automate a lot of the stuff. But the problem every time that automation, whether, you know, is that, like, we don't go, well, this assembly line has replaced 13 workers. Well, that money you were paying them, can't you just still pay them and they just don't have to work? No. Where's that money go now? Weird. It just stays at the top?
And then when generative AI popped up, the first thing they tried to automate was art. Like,
yeah.
Why?
Yes. And like, all those artists you aren't paying anymore. Like, what are you doing with that money now? Like, and the answer is always that it doesn't trickle. It's almost as if the shit doesn't actually trickle down. Anyway, we're not gonna get too mired in economics. Instead, we gotta talk about, hey, do you have a favorite Toho character?
Well, I'm gonna be cheating here and say Clown Piece.
Okay, it's
you're allowed. I did not know about Toho before this conversation, and you know what? I looked it up, and Clown Piece absolutely looks amazing. So yes.
Yeah, Clown Piece has got a good look.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
It's a nice look at the extremes of what Toho designs can be. Geoffrey, thank you. We are moving over to our final guest of the night. There was one person who was kind of here, but then not here. But they've also been on the show before. So, I go back and listen to that and pretend we're talking about game poems. That is the Adam Pipe episode, whatever one that is. Pretend we were talking about game poems. But our final guest who is here, who had worked on, made the game, of course, on Second Thought. Tereza, how you doing?
Hi. So nice to hear you all.
Yes, sorry for making you wait, about almost 3 hours, but welcome to the show.
Hi, it's getting pretty late in here.
Yes. So, for people who haven't played it yet, how would you describe On Second Thought?
Well, it's a game poem.
Yes.
That's about this one aspect of being a human. It's about the doubt and hesitation that that I usually feel when I'm trying to reach out to other humans.
Yeah.
And and I'm really happy that I can describe this game as describing a feeling instead of telling you like, oh, you have to click this
right
to win. This is the goal of the game. So I'm
try
really
and
enjoying this.
Right, to try and call them a rhythm game or something.
Yeah, it's a description of a feeling.
Yes, and it's another, as we get into this, like, perfect encapsulation of games as even game poems. Like, it's the second game in game poems, but also it's the second game about hesitation within game poems. But also two games that are just radically different than each other at the same time.
Yeah, I really love hesitation. The one that's on the cover art, and it's like this topic is very personal to me, as I'm a very shy person.
Yes, no, in doing the show for 203 episodes, I've learned over time very clearly, game developers are not, as most artists are not inherently like ready to. They're not inherent performers, and often art provides that bridge between, like, the things that we want to say in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly, because I really like observing the world and people around me, and I very often find some situation that I find poetic or something that I want to capture, and I was trying sometimes to write it in text, but I'm not good at it. I'm not good with words, and I struggled. And I'm so happy that I found a way how to capture the things that I want to talk about, and I don't need to use words. I can use a game, which is something that's like more natural for me, I guess.
Yes.
And now there's people who also do it, and I felt like that it's a valid way how to express myself.
Yeah. There's if you forced me, if you had me and forced me to like, put any sort of definition on art, like if I could not leave without giving one, I think about it most often as like the way we like talk to each other in ways that language can't like convey.
Yeah.
And that is like, your game is also like trying to remember. Yes, it is also largely fully wordless, but the ideas like the it's easy to be in that position, to see yourself in that position, to build an entire narrative around like what is ultimately like a very small gesture, but
yeah. And I also it gives me the room to make the the experience more ambiguous.
Yes.
I mean, I my work is working on serious games.
Yeah.
And educational things, and then there has to be like literally like a lesson
right
in it, and it has to be explained. So this was a very nice change.
Right, to be able to just like because in making something that has such a small like that has such an open to interpretation, like people, it's very easy for people to place their own experiences on that, and within a like not even 5-minute experience to all come away with a very different interpretation of like the on-screen characters or like what it meant or any of these sorts of things. And that's like the broader strength of like art and like shows like the weakness of games needing to be long, like how would you make your 6-hour version of On Second Thought,
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that would be terrible.
Right, like if you had to like couch it inside of like, oh, you have to do a puzzle game and then you get little snippets of like it just doesn't work, like moved into something else, moved into a more
it's this thing that it's appreciated to make in the game industry, like to make the game longer means somehow better. We've already talked about this, right? Yeah. But and somehow that it's more people think that it's more difficult maybe also to make the long game.
Right.
But I think it's also a skill to express what you want to say in a really short way. Yes,
like to very concisely like convey an entire full idea within like 3 minutes, is an intense skill to have. And it isn't easy.
I'm so glad I discovered so many beautiful game poems through this magazine and through the Discord server.
No, like
it's amazing.
Yes, it's likewise. I am like, as I do this and like scroll through everyone's stuff, I'm like, man, this is like because I am always, you know, on the look for more and more people constantly, and I'm like, huh. So I wonder how many people are gonna get emailed later from me of being like, hey, I do this thing. You have made some other games. What if you submit this game to that thing, to this other thing that I do? You know. Because I think there it is like I think a lot about there being like in my own work not being like, well, I got into you know, Indiepocalypse, it becomes like a dead end ecosystem, you know, and like the idea of like, oh, you find like people move and can find so much stuff like through like you know, being in Games Poem, like you said, being in Games Poem is an entry point for you to find so many people that you may not have found otherwise.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was just a lot of talking. I don't know, like, but so how did you end up finding game poems in the first place? I should have asked this of everybody now that I think about it. But how did you find game poems originally?
Well, I found it through the university I studied.
Okay.
But I'm still in their Discord server for some reason, and and I stalk it, and I find interesting information there. I mean, and when I saw it, yeah. I realized I already knew about that, or I knew about Jordan's work.
Yeah.
Because I heard one of his lectures, and yeah, I was instantly sure that I want to look into this.
Yeah, no, it's, and you know, it's especially I think it's interesting, like as I've talked to a lot of students, you know, or people, whether they're like starting or they're in their masters and that sort of thing. I think because that feels like I think for some people, especially depending on whether your school work is like, can be like the last place where you feel like you can really be more experimental. Since like there's not the financial pressure of like, oh, now if I want to live as an artist, I have to make things that people want to buy, you know.
Exactly. The last year at university was the time I had the most freedom, the most time to try to make things.
Yes, and you've you know, I did mention the IGF Nuovo, which is kind of like the one experimental, but it's actually the second experimental place is the student showcase, part of the IGF, in which you were a finalist. But because that is a similar thing of like, oh, you know, like you don't have to worry about it being like having to do like PR, you know, for your student game.
And exactly, and also the length, because when someone was suggesting me to publish my game on Steam when it's ready, they were like, but you have to make it at least 2 hours long so that people don't, you know, what's the word?
Refund it. Yeah.
Refund it, yeah. But I didn't want to. I had this precise thing I wanted to create, and it was this 30-minute thing, and it worked, and I didn't want to touch it more.
Yeah, and just like the Steam is a weird platform for art, like in so many ways, between like refunds and between like just the idea that I think we need to sort of remove audience from art a little. I think it's very weird that like when you put something on Steam, you can't like turn off reviews, you know? Yeah. So you have to have people who just are fighting this thing, and you know, who knows how they came across it. Maybe it was in their feed, maybe they were doing like achievement hunting or whatever. Maybe they're just playing through free games, but then you have people like giving positive, like, you know, giving thumbs up and down for like, it just feels weird that all art is subjected to reviews in that way on like most every platform you go to.
Yeah, that's true. Especially in the, like when you place a free game, many people stumble on it accidentally, they have very different expectations.
Yes,
to
right.
What they might, and then they write just, this was not a game, or this was not what I expected.
Right.
This was too short.
And it's right.
I wasn't trying to.
Right. It's like I think a lot about, you know, right. get 10,000 wish lists. But the idea of, you know, pausing this idea of people too often, I think, expect games to like meet them on their terms. And I think like a better practice is for more people to learn to meet games on the terms of the game. And like, if you run up against something, it's not like, oh, this game didn't give me the right answer. It's like trying to like find what the game is trying to tell you, you know, and sort of like meet it where it is. Because I think a lot of games, and I think, you know, different game programs, especially that are more like commercially oriented, like college and university programs are about like tutorialization and like teaching the player how to do something. And like, imagine if other art forms worked like that, you know. Like, imagine like if every book of poetry opened with like a tutorialization explaining metaphor and simile to you. And being like, oh yeah, so this book is going to explore a lot of non-literal ideas, and this guy's going to mention a tiger burning bright, but he's not talking about a real tiger, okay? He's talking about metaphors.
That's crazy, but I would love to read one book that's like
right,
this.
right, that explores like. Sometimes in chapter breaks, actions don't pick up immediately where they left off, and they move to a different location. You're having to like imagine like that would be like an interesting game jam of trying to make tutorials for other art forms, like other works of art.
That's a great idea. I love it.
maybe I'm putting. I don't know if I have the energy to run game jams, but I'm putting that energy out there of a game jam of adding tutorials to like movies and paintings, and teaching other people how to engage with that kind of thing.
Yes, please.
But I have a couple of questions for you, real quickly, as we sort of reach the end of our final single person segment, if you believe it. I say that for me just because I've been talking for like 3 hours straight. But hey, do you have a favorite? What's your favorite type of rock?
I am unable to say a name of type of rocks.
Oh, that's perfectly
English,
fine.
But my favorite kind of rock would be the smooth one that you find in a river.
Yes.
And you can have it in your pocket and play with it.
Here's you would be unsurprised maybe to learn that is a favorite type of rock that is often cited here on this show. the unidentifiable smooth weathered rock of the river. And now finally, do you have a favorite Toho character?
No, I don't, but I will need to research this.
Yes, this is
thing. I didn't know about it.
No, this is a long. Now the eternal question: is there Toho game poetry? Is the eternal question? Perhaps there must be. There are so many. There are fan games in so many different genres. Yes. Next game poem theme is Toho. Everyone make your own Toho. I mean, is the bullet hell not a certain style of game poem? The patterns of the bullets, when you think about it, like it is a very. I will go down swinging about how the artistry of bullet hells, and like how like different. You can recognize different pattern styles and different pattern approaches, based on different developers, and like there's a beauty to it, which is why I have a strong focus on very less abstract games, but bullet hells will sneak through all the time because I freaking love those things. Kentacho, let me look at. Do I know this by name? But I will say also at this point, this can be. Oh, okay. I think I do know these. Yes. This is in my as we drag open the eternal vaults of old man shit. This is also the kind of thing where I'm like, how do I find these people and be like, hey, gotta do re-releases of this stuff, like how can I find this person and email them and be like, Jordan's put a dangerous bug in my brain. But yeah, because they exist in this like very prolific, like not like outsider but not outsider, I guess. They have a lot of stuff in English. Their website has a lot of stuff in English. Seems like almost an extremely emailable person.
Kentacho, you're talking about?
Yes.
With,
yeah.
Yeah.
Kentacho seems like
I'd love to see Kentacho's games resurfaced.
Yeah, like this, like, oh my god, like 175 Blue Sky followers. What a disrespect to the medium. But Blue Jeweled rocks. Blue Jeweled kicks ass. Absolutely. But that is, I was the where I was leading to eventually is that we reached a segment of Indiepocalypse Radio where, hey, the whole gang is here. Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome. I've opened it back up to the fuller crowd. This will probably be a shorter segment just because it's been 3 hours.
It's been a bit of a marathon here. Yeah. No, thanks again, Andrew, to you for hosting us all, and to everyone who showed up today.
Yeah,
it's been really great for me again, getting to hear people's voices, and I guess like we were kind of saying at the beginning, hopefully some others might find it interesting, but for us, I think it's super fun to be able to it's kind of like a bit of a virtual launch party for the magazine, being able to kind of get into the same audio space and hear background and voices and all that. A lot of fun.
Like the unofficial, like if Indiepocalypse Radio has a tagline of any, it is like, I don't know if people like to listen to it, but I like to have conversation. It's a lot of fun to do.
Hey, well, that's got to be the starting point, right?
Yeah. Like this is basically for me, to like meet people where, this was started long before I had like the resources and like the infrastructure to like travel to events. So like I was never seeing anybody. And now I still only see like not a lot of people. What are the odds of any given radio show having a bunch of people who are all in the same, who are going to at some point be in the same space together? The odds are generally low, I think. But it allows for like digital awareness, and the thing I was talking about of the casual awareness of one another that I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. For
someone to be like a name that like, oh, I don't know this person, but that's a name that I recognize. So that's like, in the spirit of On Second Thought, it helps you bridge that gap of like interacting with another person.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and just speaking of On Second Thought too, I'd also just wanted to again also just say thanks in particular again to Tereza and Yifan and the others who I know who are coming in without English being their first language, which it is to most of us, and that's like a completely different ball game, right? Trying to about your artwork and your poetry and things, right? Not in your first language. So just wanted to again shout out that and acknowledge that and say thanks so much to all of them for being willing to come on and talk about their work. Really awesome.
Yes, it's a skill or not even a skill, in an experience I've learned over the show of taking, it's the compiling of having to talk about your abstract art. Also, you're not necessarily the most extroverted person. Also, English isn't your first language. Also, it's public. Also, as things pile on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, you're talking to a stranger for the first time that you don't know. Also, just piles up and like. But I think it's worthwhile to create spaces where I try to make it as simple a space to be in. Is low impact, a low stress environment to hang out. But I'm going to.
I think that helps a lot.
I'm going to fully wrap up this show. And something I'm going to ask also for the people who have gone, people who have left. I forgot to ask at the top, if everyone could, can I do an everyone in a group chat? I can't. Because I want to, everyone could, please drop your links/info in this group chat so I can add it to the show notes. And add it to the show notes. There we go. So for people listening to this after the fact, we have a bit of record of like, oh, all these people, where can I find them? Because I often ask, hey, if people can find you, where can they find you after the fact? So that will be helpful. I will. And
I think just for anyone who doesn't, if anyone misses that note, Andrew, also I believe everyone's website should be also in the notes page in the back of the magazine.
Yes, I think they are.
I think they're linked from the back of there as well, just in case anyone misses putting them in the chat here.
Yes. I was just putting them all, so I would have them all here right in front of me, and then
yes, absolutely, yes, I get that. Yeah,
the people who aren't here, I'm going to pluck from the notes section.
Yeah.
But I'm lazy, and I want. And also, that's why I have links so I can click on all people's stuff. For the people I know and don't know. Good to find everyone's stuff. But if for people who are listening, hey, so I'm going to do some for the people who have left. So I also have it in what's that called? I have it in audio as well. Posterity is a thing, yeah. So I have it in an audio format where people can. So Yifan does not apparently have any links in here that I can find. So, hey, play the game. And Asunder, there we go. For Asunder, if you'd like to find the people who had made Asunder, that is AshleyRezvani.com, Brittany Westlund, and that's with a U, if to make sure it's understood through my pronunciation.com. And on YouTube, search for Kate Lloyd 2247. And actually, that does cover everyone. I've got three little blanked out people here, but one of them never showed up. So, also, what is that published? What is this damn website? Oh, papercookies.ish.io. The aspirational 10th ninth guest on this show. But to take a cue from games and speed run through everyone else's stuff. Hey, Brendan, people looking for your work, where can they find it?
Bibliomancer.itch.io.
Perfect. And I also like to have them all handy here so I can sling them in the chat. So for people who are here, so I can click on them and find them right away. Roman, hello. Where's your stuff? Where can people get it?
Hi. Yeah, mostly on itch. Bulwalker.itch.io.
Perfect. Caitlin, you're up next. Hello.
Hi. You can find me on my itch also. It's cedartrees.itch.io, so it's like CDER and the word trees, or my very outdated site, cder.world.
But hey, even having an outdated site, having a site is important. Is a step above a lot of people.
It is.
I always tell people, just get your own goddamn website, even if it's just a redirect to, even just have your own URL. Very handy to have. And Geoffrey, hello. Where's your stuff at?
Hi there. If you just Google Geoffrey Mugford, you'll probably find me anyway. But if it's my website, that's namidasai, NAMIDASAI.itch.io.
Very handy when you have a actual searchable name. And finally, not second to finally, saving the centerpiece of the larger project for us. But Tereza, if people are looking for your work, where can they find it?
Oh, sorry, was that me?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, you. Sorry.
Yeah. On the internet, I am Teterka. So my stuff is on HIO, teterka.hio.
Perfect. Yes. And Jordan, to wrap it all up, people are looking for game poems or anything else you want to send them towards. Where would they find that?
Gamepoems.com. Pretty much, gamepoems.com. You can, there's various links and rabbit holes that you can go down there. Hopefully some good ones. But yeah, gamepoems.com.
No, I'm definitely likewise of the mind of like Indiepocalypse is where people ought to start, and then follow all these links everywhere else, to everyone else's websites. That's it. Thank you all for hopping on the show, and I also want to thank the one question rather than ask it of everyone individually. I want to thank Robin for their question of what's your definition of a game, or if you even finding it useful. I think I tried to, rather than ask it up frontly, it came up very naturally so often, and I tried to kind of like sneak it in there everywhere else. But also, thanks to Robin for the question that I didn't never said explicitly until now, but once it came up naturally in the conversation with Jordan, decided to let it increasingly come up naturally within conversation. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for stopping by and checking out the show. Even the people who are 2 hours late, thank you for stopping by Indiepocalypse Radio. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Farewell.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.